Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a special session of the City Council to be held on Wednesday, March 27th, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting public hearings on certain fiscal year 2025 department budgets.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a special session of the Dubuque City Council for March 27th, 2024. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during tonight's public hearings. Input options during the live meeting include: in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input for the public hearing they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which public hearing you would like to speak to in the chat function, or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which public hearing you would like to speak to during the appropriate section. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows: Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Thank you. Sprank.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
Thank you. So we will move on to our public hearings. Mayor Kavanaugh, do you want to kick us off?
Sure, sounds good. Well, welcome to night number 2 here of our public hearings. So thanks to everyone for coming. We have 6 different hearings this evening, and we will start off with the Health Services Department. So Mary Rose, we're ready for you.
Good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh and City Council members. I'm Mary Rose Corrigan, Public Health Director with the Health Services Department, here with another iteration of our Health Services Department budget for FY25. So just to remind everyone of our mission is to provide effective and equitable health services to prevent the spread of disease and other conditions while promoting the health, safety, and well-being of our residents and the environment. And we do that through the public health processes of assessment, policy development, and assurance, along with all the other activities you can see in that wheel. We have 7.14 full-time equivalents. The 1.4 is when and if we have an intern, which we often do. And they are all here tonight. Starting off with Sydney Althoff, our environmental sanitarian, account clerk Connie Miller, animal control officers Mackenzie Flanagan and Ryan Gleason, preparedness sanitarian Mark Murphy, and environmental sanitarian Tim Link. And that's our team. So some highlights. I like to think of this budget presentation and the last year as kind of recovery from the pandemic, because as you know, we were in full response and pandemic mode for most of 3 years. But as we did add a full-time animal control officer, and that has greatly increased our ability to respond to those calls. Our additional environmental sanitarian, although had just started last year, we had a change in staff, and the one we hired moved to another city department, and our new sanitarian, Mark Murphy, came on board. We completed the Community Health Needs Assessment and Health Improvement Plan, and that was a collaborative effort through other community partners. And with that, we included, this visual is the kind of marketing and advertisement we did to get community input on our virtual survey, and we had that in several languages. We completed our COVID-19 After Action Plan, a report, and an improvement plan, and we are working on some of those issues, and you'll hear more about that. We created an excessive temperature or a modified excessive heat and excessive cold plan. Crescent Community Health Center is beginning their dental and wellness center expansion. And we developed a process for staff dealing with citizens with brain health issues. So some of our future initiatives include recommending a new and improved pet licensing system, and I realize I've been saying this for several years, But it has been a process in looking at different vendors and software applications and figuring out what's possible, what are our needs, and I hope that by next year at this time, we'll be telling you about a new system for customers. We also want to do some animal control ordinance updates that we've been just seeing through experience, so you'll be seeing that in the next year. We continue to work on FDA food protection standards. Again, you'll see some expanded Crescent Community Health Center services. We're going to be doing public health preparedness plan updates and some new initiatives. We're participating more in the active mobility and transportation planning with planning and engineering and other departments. And we've developed an interactive map for our deer harvest that allows hunters to know where they are in terms of city property and other property when they're actually hunting in our urban deer management program. So our net property tax report is shown here at $852,714, and that is $12.85 for the average homeowner's property tax cost for health services. The Health Services Department continues to incorporate equity and partnerships into our daily work and with residents and in our planning efforts, such as through the community health assessment and public health preparedness planning. And a couple examples of that is utilizing debit and credit card payments as a convenience when making food or pet license payments, and this removes transportation and access to staff barriers, and it also improves compliance since many fees and delinquent fees can be handled over the phone. It reduces civil citations, court appearances, and fines. We also use a variety of translation aids in our food inspection. Those are available through many of our state and federal resources. And although it's kind of a manual count, we do have in our city 47 minority-owned food establishments. So in our environmental health activity, we want to promote a safe and healthy environment by assuring sanitary conditions and practices. And we do that in primarily 5 areas through food inspections, public swimming pool and spa inspections, tattoo parlor inspections, nuisance control, and our public health preparedness and response. So in our food activity, the number of food establishments licensed went up this year, and I will say that this is kind of a point-in-time number, so it was probably calculated about a month ago off of our database. This is a kind of ever-changing number of how many we currently have. And so these include restaurants, retail food stores, home processing facilities, farmers market, and some temporary permits. So out of those, we had 26 new establishments, 18 change of ownership, 4 new food trucks, which are counted in the new establishment, and 22 out of business. Now, you might notice that some of these numbers might not add up to the previous slide, and part of the reason of that is we don't always know when businesses go out of business. They don't necessarily inform us. We hear it by word of mouth, or we go there and there's nobody there, those kinds of things. Or they may fall between fiscal years of when they start and end. So the numbers aren't always exact there. And then, like I said, that 510 number is for kind of that day, that week. So those numbers seem a little fuzzy, that's why. We also had 10 new minority-owned food establishment businesses in the last year, and 2 that went out of business, so that too fluctuates. Our food license revenue increased slightly, and this revenue supports the inspection activity, and those fees are set by the state of Iowa. And I mentioned earlier that the sanitarians continue to work on FDA standards for food inspections, and this is required with our contract with the Iowa Department of Inspections and Appeals and now licensure, and it requires, these are best practices for inspectors and the regulatory food programs. So we've completed standards 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 9, and this year we will be working on 5, 7, and 8. And we did receive some grant money to do that from, it's a federal agency to work on those standards. And also, we received some grant money for 2 of our sanitarians to attend a national conference that focuses quite a bit on food inspection and food safety. So other activities in the environmental health, we did 19 hotel inspections and pools and spas, and 19 tattoo inspections. And those are usually annual. The hotels, you don't have to do annual, but it usually ends up about that way anyway. Our nuisance complaints, those are things like accumulations of garbage, rubbish, miscellaneous items, maybe a vector harborage, those kinds of things. You can see that they took a big dip in 20 and 21, and that was actually, we did some of that work, but our Housing and Community Development Department handled that because we were so busy with COVID, so that's why you saw those numbers dip there, and they spiked last year and went down a little bit last year. And in terms of enforcement, we always try to work with the property owner to get problems resolved. Unfortunately, sometimes we do have to issue a citation, but in fiscal year 23, we didn't issue any nuisance citations. Or we issued, 17, but after we issued them, the problem was corrected by the property owner, and we did not have to hire a private contractor to remedy the situation. So I'm going to kick off the preparedness activity by talking about kind of a new initiative we're working on, and that is a resiliency hub. So you're probably wondering, what is a resilience hub? Well, a resiliency hub is a use of a physical space, a building, and its surrounding infrastructure to meet numerous goals, both physical and social. So resilience hubs are an important opportunity to efficiently improve emergency management, mediate climate pollution, and enhance community resilience. These spaces also provide opportunities for communities to become more self-determining, socially connected, and successful. So we're working on an EPA change grant through a number of departments in partnership with the Dream Center. And the idea is resiliency hubs are intended to shift power and initiatives to neighborhoods and residents, providing opportunities to address root causes of disproportionate exposure and sensitivity to climate impacts and enhance communities' abilities to be resilient. So part of this project we're working on will have a healthy homes component, and it will, similar to the one we have right now in the housing department through Led and Healthy Homes. So resiliency hub is actually a way to, it works at combining or at the nexus of community resilience, emergency management, and climate change mitigation and social equity. So for instance, one of the things we could use the resiliency hub for is a warming or cooling center. And we know that sometimes we struggle with places to host those, and we're having more and more of those climate events. So you'll be hearing more about that project as it develops and as we submit our grant for that. And now I'm going to have Mark Murphy, our public health preparedness sanitarian, talk a little bit more about our preparedness planning.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Again, Mark Murphy, emergency preparedness planner and sanitarian. Some of the things I've been working on, we had a cold plan and a heat plan, and we're doing kind of the same thing, both kind of open shelters, things like that. So we combined it, and we came up with an extreme temperature plan that we started working on and actually have started using last year. Some of the agencies that have been assisting us have been the rescue mission. They've been really good about taking people if they need it. Carnegie-Stout Public Library, the mall, the Multicultural Family Center, Salvation Army Bunker Hill Intermodal Facility, and the Emmanuel Congregational Church. They helped us this last summer with cooling centers. Most of these agencies are just during the day, so right now the rescue mission, their 2 facilities are the only places that can help us out in the evening, which is what we're looking for when we're looking for more of the extreme cold. The daytime stuff's more for the heat, but the extreme cold is when we get the overnight stuff, so we're looking for agencies to assist us there. On the planning of that, with the preparedness planning, I've been putting together some presentations to go out to families, organizations, neighborhood associations, business, and presentations on how they can be preparing for disasters or things that hit their companies or hit their family, putting together toolkits, putting together policies, drilling, things like that. So I got some presentations to start doing that. I'm working with the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support. They're going to start talking to their people they talk with and see what the need is. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know who needs warming centers, no cooling centers. Right now, our focus has been on the homeless. But we found out last summer that the homeless really didn't want our help because they're going to come someplace with the city owned, police are going to be there, they don't want anything involved. We want to reach out to other people who need it, and we don't know who needs it yet. So we're working with the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support. They're going to talk to their people, as well as Bell is going to have some people this summer out canvassing neighborhoods, and they're going to talk to people about it as well and see what kind of need there is there. We're researching overnight for sheltering. Can we do it in city buildings? Do we have enough city staff? Do we have enough city staff trained? Or can we reach out to community partners and see what other partners are out there willing to help us assess if they can help us and the types and locations where we need the service. On my other side, well, both sides, with getting the new position and becoming a sanitarian, I've already taken 61 FDA classes in the last 9 months, weeks worth of state training. I've done 25 joint inspections. I'm almost done with my 25 independent inspections. I got 4 left. By then, I'll be trained to go out and do inspections by myself. I've been working on the multicultural jurisdictional local emergency hazard mitigation plan with Tom Berger and his group. Worked on the Dubuque County preparedness plan. We had a drill on February 30th with all the nursing homes and care facilities, hospitals. We had a drill for a winter event. Blizzard came, they're all closed, can't get anything. It opened a lot of their eyes, and we're working with them to get some things that they need addressed and helping them get their plans put together. And then I also been handling nuisance complaints as they came up, as they're assigned to me. And then on Tom's backup, it seems like anymore, because with my previous background and doing what I'm doing now, when Tom heads out of town, he calls me up and say, hey, can you back me up and do the city stuff? So I've been doing that as well.
Thanks, Mark. The next area is our animal control activity. This slide shows the number of total complaints we get over a year, and as you know, when animal control is not on duty, the police handle our complaints. The good news about fiscal year 23 is the police handled fewer complaints, and that's a result of expanded hours with our 2 full-time animal control officers. So we like to use our police for police work. We love it when they can help us out, but their time is spent on kind of more serious issues, and if we can handle it, we will. So the expanded hours I think have helped quite a bit. These are the animals taken to the Humane Society, where we have a contract for services. As you know, a couple years ago, we did a 5-year agreement with them. So the public, the police, and animal control all take stray, unwanted, missing animals there. The amount of animals claimed by owners is rather small. It's only about 15% of the animals taken to the Humane Society are claimed by their owner. Now they're adopted out or found homes in other ways, but that's a pretty low percentage. And our current, what we paid to the Humane Society last year was almost $163,000 for these services. We had a rebound on our license sales, the number of pet licenses purchased. This is definitely not all of them in town, but it's a good number of them. So it was about a 2% increase in the number of licenses sold, and the revenue also went up, and as you probably figured, this revenue helps pay for the animal control activity, and there's about an 8% increase in that revenue. And that's through a lot of hard work and citizens paying their license fees online through pet data, and also by both of our animal control officers, and I'll talk a little bit more about how they do that in a minute. We also started in January of 2022 the ability, when people claim an animal at the Humane Society, if it's not licensed, we actually require them, if at all possible, to purchase their license them. But it actually is a service too, so then they don't have to make another trip or make another phone call to get up to date on their animal licensing, and it instills that pet responsibility. Our cruelty and neglect investigations went down a little bit, which is good. I hope that's through some education the animal control officers do with folks as they encounter them, and then we do some social media initiatives on that, and these are very time-consuming activities, so we definitely want to see that number continue to go down, and we work on those in conjunction with the police department. Our animal bite trend went down, not a whole lot, but it did go down, which is good because it's kind of been on the rise. So it's good that these things are being reported, but you know, we want this number to be less. So animal control and their enforcement also issues municipal infractions, and this is the number of infractions for just licensing enforcement. So it was down a little bit in FY22 as we were dealing with COVID and not as proactive on enforcement. They did increase this year. We sent out 800 courtesy letters instead of citations in January 2023 to start one of those processes. So we try to get as much cooperation from citizens as possible. And then animal control also issues municipal infractions for other animal control ordinance violations. 26% of these 61 citations were resolved before they were filed with the court, and that was either by the animal order securing a fence or doing a number of things with their pet. And like I said, that's the goal of a municipal infraction, is to correct the violation. So if we look at some of our license enforcement breakdown, we can see that of these citations issued, or people who are late with their license, we pretty much get about 87% people in compliance before we dip into enforcement. And in a typical cycle, so we do batches of licensing enforcement several times a year, there's about 13 to 18% of those that we initially contact that go to court for failure to purchase their license. So we like to keep that number low too. Our urban deer management program, it started back in 1997. I can hardly believe it. It continues to be a model for other communities. I often have people calling me about our program. This is a partnership with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, and they provide the technical assistance and consult. This year, there were 76 permitted hunters inside the city limits, and they harvested a total of 145 deer. And it's important to remember that, you know, without some deer management control, the population would probably increase by about a third every year. So we've managed to at least keep it somewhat stable. You know, Crescent Community Health Center really fulfills a lot of our public health equity in the community, and exciting times are happening with Crescent was facing a pretty significant challenge in meeting the increasing demand for comprehensive dental care, and through a grant secured by the Delta Dental Foundation, they're going to be able to address that need, and they're working to secure additional funds to expand to include oral surgery, more pediatric dentistry, and specialty and expanded dental services, all which are pivotal to meeting current needs. And in our community health needs assessment, dental access is one of the initiatives we're working on. So Crescent's numbers continue to grow. The actual number of patients was about steady from 2022, but you can see the number of visits has greatly increased. And that's because of the care coordination between behavioral health, dental, and the medical departments being able to provide a kind of total care for the patients. And about 60% of the patients at Crescent are white, and about 40% are of other racial ethnic groups. And the main medical insurance source or payment source, almost 50% are Medicaid, and we know that many providers in Dubuque limit their Medicaid patients, and so this is a big need. And then there's, of course, 33% uninsured and some private pay, and a few Medicare, too. The Medicare is increasing a little bit. Several years ago, Crescent got into the brain health services. It's just phenomenal what they're doing, and again, addressing another community need. They have a part-time psychiatrist and 2 nurse practitioners, a whole staff listed here. The visits in 2022 were 6,460, and in 23 there were 7,681, so that's a 19% increase, and again, addressing a critical need. And I think part of the success of that is, again, medical department can hand off to behavioral health for many clients, and it provides that access point and assurance that, they can get the services. So we have a few recommended improvement requests, some simple equipment, some stand-up desks, conference room chairs, and more animal control live traps. Some of ours are getting worn out, and those are used primarily for stray and wild cats, a high demand for those. Some overtime for our account clerk, so for total improvements of a little over $5,600. And that's us, and we thank you all for your support, and happy to answer any questions.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mayor Rose. Well, first, we are in a public hearing to discuss the health services budget for 2025. Do we have any public comments this evening here on this particular budget? Seeing none here, do we have anything virtually?
No one virtually, no input.
All right. Thank you very much. Back to the table then for any discussion and questions.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
Comment and a question. I've become an avid reader of Iowa Capital Dispatch, and Clark Kaufman writes about the major health violations all across the state all the time. Some of them are pretty scary and some of them are creepy, and almost none of them are about Dubuque, which suggests that you're doing a good job of educating the restaurateurs. And certainly my experience being in a lot of these places is that I feel like the food is safe, so congratulations to all of you on that. That's a bigger deal than anybody realizes, I think. I do have a question about, we've had conversation over the last decade about whether pets should be allowed in parks or not, and we changed the law about 5 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, to allow them in certain parks. I'm just curious if we've had any uptick in issues with the animals, with the dogs being in parks or not, because I'd like to expand the number of places that they can be, is kind of my goal. But
So,
that's one of the things we're going to watch and see
I
if it
can answer
changes.
that pretty easily. We allow pets in quite a few of the parks and on trails, and we've virtually had very few complaints. And any enforcement we do is pretty cooperative, educational. I think the park patrol is about in the same position. In fact, now that, pets are allowed in some, it's mostly just more a matter of educating on leash issues or whatever. So few complaints so far, so that's good.
I like it. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. Mr. Resnick first, then Ms. Farmer.
All right, thank you. So for pet licensing, it's always a topic with our citizens. And are we getting a lot of public input for, next steps, what the public is hoping for as far as our pet licensing program?
Well, we actually receive a lot of that input through the phone calls and texts and letters we send out. I will say that a good part of that success in getting people up to date is through kind of manual working text by our account clerk, Connie Mueller, and phone calls, updating records and things like that. But we do have citizens wanting a better online interface where they can see their total license and see the total picture and figure out maybe what's wrong with why they're late or whatever. So it's not a total online, you don't see your whole account. And we know that citizens would like to do that more so they can see when different things are due a little bit easier when they're out of date. So that for sure is one element. And the online portion is great. A lot of people do seamlessly handle their payments and their licensing. When it gets tricky is people with multiple pets and different due dates and things like that. So we do get input that way. I don't think we're quite far enough along in knowing whether we're going to do in-house or outsource at this point, but that's a good idea, and we can keep that in mind to getting some public input on that. But I think animal control and our account clerk, Connie Mueller, probably have some really good ideas they've received from the public.
Great, thank you. And it says animal control is 54% self-supporting. What is the source of that support?
It's the revenue licensing, the impoundment fees. So when people, when they claim their animals at the Humane Society, they have to pay a fee, and revenue, impoundment. That's pretty much it, right? Yep, those are the two sources.
And for the cold overnight housing, I know you're looking for a lot of different people. And have you contacted DACU, the Dubuque Area Congregations United? There's so many parish centers and things like that might.
I think we've reached out to some of the churches in locations where we knew there was kind of a gap, and we were successful with one. So it's definitely an area we can explore and do that avenue, because they do have space and
it's part of their mission, I believe.
actually, yes.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Ms. Farmer.
So if I could just follow up on Mr. Resnick's comment about your requests that you actually put in for overnight heating or cooling centers. It's not in this year's budget, but could you just kind of educate us on the significant need again, and also what your plans might be for the year forthcoming and how to resolve this issue?
Right. I think, we have designated shelters for disasters, and we work with Red Cross on that. Those are kind of bigger issues. I think it first came to light this summer when we had that kind of extended heat wave. And when you don't get below 74 degrees for about 4 or 5 nights in a row, it wears on people. And so we got together, some of our internal working group folks and our department, health, housing, and police, different things, to first of all try and figure out the need. So we tried some different surveys at our usual cooling centers, got a little bit of feedback, like, do you need an overnight shelter? Would you go to an overnight shelter? So then it came down to trying to figure out where to do it without a lot of notice. We landed on a current facility, which wasn't ideal, but we were going to make it work using existing staff. And then when it got down to it, by putting some policies in place for the shelter, again, in a couple days' notice, it was kind of determined that nobody was going to come. And but we know that the rescue mission, for instance, is in those times, and in extreme cold times, is full to capacity, and they have a new center that's full to capacity. So we know there's a need out there. Like Mark said, what we don't really know is how many people who have a household, maybe without air conditioning, would want that service or need it. So part of it is zeroing in, but ideally, it'd be great to partner with another community organization to provide the services, one that already is kind of able to function like that on short notice. So that's kind of the model we're looking at. Larger cities have more permanent facilities for that, and we don't have that. So partnering with another organization would be ideal, and I think the start of that is adding more cooling and warming centers through that effort, because a lot of those sites that you saw are city facilities that aren't open on holidays, nights and weekends, and that hot and cold temperatures happen then too, so we have to figure that out.
Because you had mentioned here, it was Five Flags Majestic Room, and then there would be staff that would be employed as well. Is that still an option that you're looking at for the year forthcoming?
Yes, if we have a situation where we, extended colder heat, we would probably look at that, because it did kind of get narrowed down to that would be a pretty decent place to do it that wouldn't be disruptive to an existing department. And we'd have to utilize some existing city staff, do some just-in-time training, things like that.
Okay, but it's a potential option, though, is what you're saying for next
It
year?
is a potential option, yes.
All right. And then just on another point, I just wanted to give a shout out to your food safety group and how much we continue to appreciate their professional expertise and guidance that they provide to those of us restaurateurs, because it's always a pleasure to see them, because we know that food safety is in mind when we see them, especially in the market, when we have the food trucks out there as well. So thank you very much for that. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I just wanted to ask a little bit more, and maybe it does lend to the conversation about sheltering. The climate change mitigation as part of the resiliency hub, I'm kind of excited to learn more about that, and I don't need to deep dive, but is that something on the horizon that you feel in the next year you'll learn more about grant opportunities that would, I'm sure there's a lot of collaboration going on as well.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely hear in the next year on one grant opportunity we're working on. And the thing we've been learning about resiliency hubs is that it's always evolving based on community need. It's community-based, and it has multiple uses and changes. So, something like that could also be used as a shelter if we get it designed that way, perhaps, and could serve for a place for citizens to recover from disasters, perhaps, or build that resiliency before those kinds of things happen. So, yeah, I think now that we're learning about the concept, we're looking at one grant opportunity, but it's something, maybe we will gradually build.
Wonderful. And then I just wanted to say thank you, especially to animal control. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I see people after they've been bitten. And to be quite honest, it's a really scary time for people. And so I know you are right in the middle of that, and I'm grateful for your service. You do an important job. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Spring.
Thank you. I just mainly wanted to say I'm really excited to hear about this resiliency hub, the potential for reusing an old space that could be centered for helping out our community. So I'm intrigued if that grant goes through, how that could affect particularly the north end or the downtown area. So thank you for working on that.
Great.
Ms. Russell, do you have any questions?
I would just like to add that I think that being proactive and creating awareness about the fact that we have these resilience hubs and extreme weather plans will increase participation. It was kind of sad to hear that the first time that Mary Rose had a place available, that no one was coming. And I think that having these kind of conversations and being proactive is really going to increase participation when the need does arise. So thank you for that great work.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rousseau. So the only things, first of all, thank you very much for the presentation and for everything that you're doing. How did it feel to be up there and not talk about COVID that much?
It was great.
Was that pretty nice? I was really curious about that because you started. I'm like, she's only said COVID like twice. I think.
Well, I could
so.
remind you to, if you're over 65, get a booster shot, and we'll probably need another one this fall.
Thank you for that extra reminder. But in all seriousness, though, it is nice to be able to talk about these things that I know you had to table for a little while you worked on so hard with the pandemic. But we're thinking ahead now on some of these items, and that is something that I definitely appreciate seeing. I want to get to the cooling center stuff too because I have some more questions about that. But I have just a basic question. Do you have a sense of why we had a jump in the licensed establishments? It was a big one. It looked, statistically, it's really large. I was just curious if you had any sense of that.
Well, we've talked about that quite a bit, and, we can come up with different theories. Kind of emerging out of the pandemic, people, had ambition to start new places, reopen places. I think, I don't know, and these trends kind of go up and down, and not all of them are big. Some of them are a home food establishment or part of a store where food was added. So they're not all big physical spaces either.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it was just interesting because you could see the line going up, pretty dramatically up through 2019, and then obviously the drop, and then it just bounced right back up again.
And we are a little limited in the state database that we put all our information in into what we're able to extract from it. So maybe someday we can say, here you go, AI, figure it out.
Sure. Yeah, okay, so data tracking too, that makes sense. So I have a question, and it's actually, I had, for deer tags and cooling centers, it's kind of interesting because it's not I know those two things are not related, but it's about partnerships that we have. There are some things that we as a city do, and we want to make sure that we provide a service that's needed. So the cooling centers are a great example. It's our responsibility as a city to make sure that public safety is top of mind. But to do that effectively, sometimes using a lot of partnerships, and I know Mr. Resnick brought it up and a few others brought it up, partnering with different organizations to get that done. So from a cooling center standpoint, and I thought I knew the answer to this question, but maybe I don't. Do we have a lot of community partners who jump in to be able to assist with that? You mentioned a few of them on here, but do we have people that take care of that since the city doesn't have enough space for people? Is there...
Well, the list you saw is pretty much it.
That's it, okay.
But I think there's places where people go that we're not aware of, perhaps public spaces. But we did add a couple this year, and they came forth. For instance, the Kennedy Mall and the church. So we were able to add a couple more. And I will say, when we call on these places, and we do every time, and make sure we communicate, they're all very willing. Yeah. And so I think Mark in his position can kind of build on that, and especially as we try to educate the community more about preparedness. Back in 2003 through 6, we did a lot of that family preparedness work, and then it kind of dies down, right? And so now, it's a reminder, whether it's a pandemic or extreme cold, hot, whatever, to kind of re-up our game on educating the community on self-preparedness and resiliency, household preparedness. So that may spark some other conversations. And we hope to do that to some organizations too, so then they can think about, well, how can we serve people in that space? And we also have, through our emergency management agency, community organizations after disaster that works on helping people with needs. And we've started talking more about, what can we do beforehand? So we'll be talking to those groups to kind of get maybe them talking to their constituents on preparedness.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think, the Kennedy Mall is the one that sticks out on this list because it's not a nonprofit organization, doesn't have necessarily that mission, but it's kind of a perfect space for something like that. And one of the things that caught my eye with that is that, we had this discussion last night when we had Gina Bell here from a sustainability standpoint. This isn't going away. We're going to be dealing with this more and more. The heat we experienced last year, I expect to see that again. The smoke in the air for 3 months at a time
that was another
something
one.
that was just, it was wild, but it was exactly what I think we're going to need to expect. So and this is kind of a call for you, but then also to the community. I think the more we can build partnerships like that for those moments when we really need them, hopefully it's not a daily thing, but we need something like that as a community, and it can't just be on the city. It's difficult that we can't approve that tonight, the request, but it also is something that I think there's a lot of space in this city that we could use if we can build those partnerships. So I hope you continue to explore that possibility, and I hope that people keep coming to you with that possibility too, because I think that's an important opportunity.
Yep, it's definitely on our initiative list.
Yeah. So this is weird, but I'm going to connect it to the deer tag thing, because I'm curious if there's a way that we can, if there's any sort of grants or partnerships that we can have either with the state or federal government to be able to expand that program more. I saw that was another package that wasn't approved for this year. But knowing that most of the 140 deer that were harvested this year were in my yard for the entire season, and they're beautiful animals, but we do need to manage it because it can be a danger to the community and to the deer themselves. In all seriousness, I'm just curious if there's a way we can look outward to be able to solve that problem a little more.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any, and we do communicate with the IODNR regularly. I'm sure they'd let us know if there was funding opportunities. They have not a surplus budget, to say the least. And, a lot of cities pay a lot more money for this. And so we do it in a very economical way that also provides some recreation for people too. So I think there's, other than funded research that someone would want to do, I'm not aware of any, but, we're always looking for that. And with Justin Tilgen in the city manager's office, I'll tell him to put it on his radar.
Yeah, and I have no idea if anything exists. I haven't seen it either, but I was just curious, just because the problem is becoming more noticeable, and I hear more about it, so it's good. Well, thank you very much, Mary Rose, and thank you, team, for being here. We appreciate the work that you do and appreciate hearing all about everything you did this year. So, thank you. With that, we'll move on to our second public hearing of the night, the Carnegie-Stout Public Library.
Hey, Nick. Good, you? I've seen him.
You look like you're ready to go. Whenever we're ready to go, huh? Yeah. All right.
I think I'm ready.
Perfect. I'll let you be sure, and then we'll get going. All right. So our next presentation tonight is from the Carnegie-Stout Public Library.
All right, well, good evening. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Nick Rossman. I'm the director of the Carnegie-Stout Public Library. It's my pleasure to share with you just some of the highlights and accomplishments, and then some of the things that we're looking forward to in the future from the library. So to start things off, I'll share our mission and vision statement. Our mission statement is enriching lives in the Dubuque community through experiences and resources that encourage discovery. And our vision statement is to improve and empower lives through accessible resources, community engagement, and entertainment opportunities in a welcoming environment. The way we do that is through our fantastic staff. We have about 35 and a half full-time equivalents, which is made up of about 21 full-time staff and approximately 40 part-time staff. The adult services provides research, general information, material selection, and programming geared to the adult population. Our youth and teen services provide very similar community support as the adult services staff, just geared toward that different age demographic. Our information technology provides network security, hardware and software support, as well as overseeing all of our technology needs and overseeing the library's makerspace, functional and programming needs. The material checkout or our circulation staff make sure that our materials are checked in and out and on the shelf while providing a smile to all the public that are coming through our doors, and our materials acquisition and processing services accept shipments of all of our new materials, prepare those materials to be available to be checked out onto the shelves, and also input bibliographic records into our database so those materials can be searched in our online catalog and hopefully found in the shelf in the appropriate place. And then our building maintenance staff not only make sure that our beautiful historic building stays nicely maintained and functional, but they also pick up materials at various drop-off locations throughout the city. And then all of that is overseen by the library administration, and then the library board of trustees oversee our financial and policies as well. So we're most of the time a very well-oiled machine. And then we also have ongoing programs and partnerships that we engage in that help the city's mission of being an equitable community of choice. Some of those some of those include, but not really limited to, we have an ongoing partnership with the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque and some other organizations to promote the Summer Learning Initiative. We do a lot of collaborative programming with the Multicultural Family Center. We have our Bookworm Builders program, which provides a story time and small collection of free books to youth at Head Start programs and other underserved preschools in the community. The Giving Tree is a donation-based program that helps remove lost material finds from minor cards for books that have been lost. We have a partnership with the Dubuque Community School District to provide all middle school and high school students library cards automatically with their school IDs. This program provides over 5,000 students access to public library services and materials. And one of our newest digital offerings, The Shelf, which I'll feature here in a few minutes, something that new we've added this year. And then also I want to share about this year's Dubuque County Reads program. So last year, a collaboration began between several Dubuque County libraries. Most of them you can see which ones are involved through the events, underneath the events there. So this year, our selected book is The Personal Librarian, which is by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. This book is a meticulously researched historical fiction about Belle de Costa Green, a black woman who passed as white of Portuguese descent and is hired as the personal librarian to J.P. Morgan in the early 1900s to curate a collection of rare manuscripts, books, and artwork for his personal library. Using her intelligence, her excellent taste, and shrewd negotiation skills, Belle's rise to becoming a fixture in high art society is chronicled. Tells the story of an extraordinary woman, her achievements and sacrifices while navigating white identity in a highly segregated America. So book discussions are happening kind of all throughout the county at various libraries. The first one having taken place this afternoon, but they continue on until April 13th. And then also kind of a new feature that was added this year, the First Baptist Church in Dubuque previously had produced a play titled Hidden in Plain Sight, which is based on the book by Peggy Jackson, written by Peggy Jackson. And so a recording of that is going to be shown at the Multicultural Center next week, followed by a Q&A with Miss Jackson, the playwright. So just kind of some neat extra program that's coming along with the book discussions and everything. So, and as we're meeting to discuss with people in the community, we're already taking suggestions for next year's titles. So looking forward to next year as well. All right, some of our fiscal year highlights. We had a little over 180,000 visitors for the fiscal year. We finished the year with about 44,000 card holders. Over 615,000 total collection use. That includes not just our physical checkouts, but digital materials, also database usage and access to the Telegraph Herald archives. And we also saw our biggest increase in use since its inception in the makerspace, including a 70% annual increase in visitors and an 89% increase in programming attendance. We also had over 120,000 checkout of digital materials. We added over 17,000 items to our collection this year. And then now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Shelf. So the Shelf is a streaming platform, provides library users access to thousands of movies and television series in Spanish. Also provides access to performing arts recordings from theaters and opera houses from around the world. So this is really just kind of a desktop interface of what the Shelf looks like when you can log in. Right now we're looking at everything's in Spanish. I wanted to challenge myself a little bit. You can see up in the upper right-hand corner there is a little toggle. You can change that to English if that's what you prefer. And I was doing all these screenshots in March, so a lot of this grouped content here is featuring women. So that kind of that first row is women in history, but also they just have women in television and television series, and then based on novels. This screenshot here feature some of their live theater performances, which I just think is neat for a streaming platform. First row is Women of the Stage. Second row there is Great Female Voices, and then the final row is a collection of new premieres from Teatrix, which is a Mexican live theater streaming platform that collaborates with the Shelf to provide access to recorded live theater, which is just also I just think is a really neat addition to a streaming platform. And then finally, there's just a real brief snapshot of just some of the youth programming that's available through the platform as well. And you can kind of see at the very bottom there, you could filter by age demographics, and they obviously kind of group things together as well based on various things. And then one thing that I don't have featured here, but I think is kind of also a neat addition, is they also have a lot of classic Hollywood movies that are in English, but they have Spanish subtitles. So kind of gives people access to some classic cinema as well as being able to provide the Spanish translation. Then a few more fiscal year statistics here. We had over 800 programs dedicated to the youth and teen audience, nearly 200 programs for adults, and we had over 25,000 people attend those programs in the fiscal year. We also completed a space needs assessment, which I've previously been delighted to sit in this room and engage with you on. So I won't go through that much today. But we're continuing the work necessary to move forward with all the work we've completed so far, and continuously looking to improve our space for our services and programming, and hope is that we continue to grow as a community. We see our service and circulation and programming attendance also continue to grow in turn. This slide here, just kind of a breakdown of our collection use. So we saw a little bit of an increase over the fiscal year 22 as far as total collection use, and we had over 233,000 books, physical books that checked out in fiscal year 23. That breakdown is about 53% of those were youth materials and 47% adults. And that print material makes up about 37% of our collection use. The electronic information retrieval, which is the database and the Telegraph-Herald archives, that's about 27% of the use, and then 19% is that digital collection, objects on Hoopla and Libby and things of that nature. And then while it's not a significant percentage increase, the other items which librarians call the library of things, which feature things like kick pans, our memory care kits, puzzles, board games, nature exploration packs, STEM kits for youth, raising reader bags, and a lot more. I think those circulation numbers actually doubled. So it's just 2% of our total usage, but it's nice to see like a pretty significant increase in some of that being used. So. All right, so this just features how our budget is spent every year. So you can see about 70% of our budget covers staff costs, and our staff that provide insight on our excellent collection, a wealth of available library services, programming, and the service to the community. Former director of the New York Public Library, Timothy Healy, is quoted as saying, "The most important asset of any library goes home at night," and I wholeheartedly agree. And then the remainder of our budget is split fairly evenly between adding new library materials every year and making sure that the building is functional and clean and a fun and safe place to visit. And then, so having mentioned our excellent collection, this slide kind of focuses just on how much money library users saved in fiscal year 23. So we have on the very left-hand column there's our the various types of items that we circulate, and then an average estimated retail price for all those items, and then that fiscal year circulation of those items and what that would kind of come out to as far as an estimated cost. So you can see that library users saved over $7 million by accessing those resources at the library, and these numbers do not factor in any of that electronic resources, the databases, or the Telegraph-Herald archives, or library programming either. So there's probably some more hidden stuff in there. All right, and then some of the current initiatives we're working on that we're really excited about. Spent a little bit of time talking about the Dubuque County Reads program. Then we, like I said, plans for 2025 are already underway. We've added some new technology to the library recently. We replaced our old laser cutter and engraver with a larger, more industrial-sized machine that allows us to cut larger and thicker materials. We've recently replaced our self-check machines, which come with the ability for us to add a mobile checkout component. So you can now search on your phone, your smartphone, through Apple or Android store for the Carnegie-Stout Public Library app. And with that, you can connect your library card to it, and then you can actually use it to, with your camera, scan the barcode of the item, and then a final step, you take a picture of those barcodes. Then that final step is you just got to take it to one of our radio frequency security disabling devices, and then it checks it out, sends you an email. No more fumbling through your wallet or purse for your library card or having to remember your PIN. It's all just kind of stored on your phone. I've really liked it. So it's been a neat addition. And then we've also added a few new databases. The A to Z World Food Database provides regional recipes from across the world. The Weiss Financial Ratings provides not only information about stocks and various funds, but also provides access to ratings for banks and credit unions, and can provide reports for people looking to shop insurance providers for Medicaid coverage or Medicare coverage, which are pretty neat as well. And then, of course, the shelf is pretty new. We talked about that a little bit already. So some of the future initiatives, having recently upgraded some of the technology to our boardroom, which has made our hybrid meeting capabilities a lot better there, has inspired us to try and do the same thing in our Eigler Auditorium. Space is utilized not just by library staff for programming, but it's also used for various city meetings, and members of the public use it as well. I'll talk a little bit more about that in our recommended improvement package. And then kind of through the direction of our space needs assessment, we're also working on a project that will increase the number of small study rooms in our building. We currently have one study room that's on our first floor. It's frequently used, and oftentimes when somebody's in there, then we have another person that comes in and wants to use it, and they're just kind of out of luck. So we're reworking some of the space on our second floor that will hopefully allow us to put in a few of the pods that you see there. This isn't necessarily the exact pod we'll get, but this is just an example. They do come in various sizes. Some of them are built for one person, some of them for 3 to 4. So then it's kind of various in cost. So we're looking to partner with our Carnegie-Stout Public Library Foundation to kind of help make that project go. This is our requested property tax support slide. We've got a little over $4 million as an annual budget, $60.84 average homeowner property tax cost, and then we have a little over $947,000 in our different gift trusts, which I'm going to go over here really quick. Our Lacey Trust, that's earnings are used to purchase materials of lasting value in the areas of travel, science, fine arts, and biographies. We have a Lowell Trust. The earnings there are used for framing, hanging, care, and maintenance of the nearly 100 works of art that the library has. We have a few unrestricted gift trusts. The James Muchler Trust, that donation was designated just to enhance library services. The Walton Trust is a special revenue fund that's designated by the library trustees to be used for the purpose of conservation and preservation of library materials of historic value. And then the General Library Trust is a depository for bequests that are smaller in financial scope, also for grants and donations. And then there's the principal and their earnings used according to the donor's wishes. And then this is just kind of a little bit of a breakdown of that general fund, more of some of the projects we're expecting to come out of there this year. So you can kind of see like the study pods is kind of at the top of the list with possible expected costs there. As we talked about during the space needs assessment, a possible fundraising feasibility study that we're looking at to incorporate, see what that would cost. And then several other various projects that we know will be happening over the year, some of which I've talked about a little bit earlier. And then our recommended improvement package this year. So typically the Board of Trustees and I like to share all of our requests. However, this year the Library Board, we've been following budget updates this year. Very grateful to the Mayor and the Council and City Manager and the budget staff for everything they've been able to recommend for approval and acknowledge the challenges that are going to happen in getting a budget passed this year. So really we're just going to be going through this one recommended package that talks about the upgrades to the Eigler Auditorium, This package would add 2 cameras to the room, one that would be aimed towards the front, which would maintain a view of a presenter or panel of speakers, and then one aimed towards the back, which would provide a view of audience for virtual Q&A or some sort of hybrid meeting, or really any number of reasons. This will also include adding some built-in microphones that would pick up audio throughout the space to assist with the functionality of those hybrid-style meetings. So the auditorium is currently the largest meeting space that the library has to offer. Obviously, we use it quite a bit for library programming, but we also are a frequent host for city-sponsored programs like City Life, quarterly neighborhood updates, and various community events of weddings and book clubs and other things of that nature. So we're really excited to be able to kind of provide an elevated hybrid capacity to the space, which hopefully enhance the user's experience. So, and this project has a total expected cost of $13,000. And I also want to just feature, this is one of we have a lot of really new cool stuff in the makerspace, but this is maybe my favorite one. So this is a lighted photo block, and actually the block is glass, and you can heat transfer really any picture onto the back, and then it might be hard to see from a distance, but etched into the glass on the front we use with our new laser engraver. It's Masterpiece on the Mississippi, and then City of Dubuque down here in the corner. And then the base here is actually printed on one of our 3D printers, and then we've inserted an LED strip light that just can be plugged in through USB, and then it just lights up, so it makes a really nice desk item or anything. And this for one of these units is $9. We have a few of these that are pre-made, but people are coming in and printing their own family photos or a photo of a cherished pet or whatever they want to do. So they're really neat. And then just to kind of wrap things up, we'll go through our performance measures. So our youth services, we had 135 programs to area child care centers through our AmeriCorps partnership. We provided the Leadership Enrichment After School Program. That's a monthly program at both Washington and Jefferson. So there's 12 visits at each school. And we checked out over 150,000 physical items out of our children's collection. There was nearly 170,000 database and Telegraph Herald archives information accessed. We checked out over 120,000 digital materials, which is an increase over the previous fiscal year. We had a little over 2,700 attendees to adult programming, and there was 85 programs that we held there. And then is our circulation numbers. So we have over 200,000 physical items that are available for checkout in the building. About 74% of our community have a library card, and we did over 350 deliveries to our homebound residents this year. And then that Telegraph Herald newspaper archives hit nearly 100,000 views in fiscal year 23. So that is all for me. I thank you all very much.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Nick. Well, we are in a public hearing to discuss the Carnegie-Stout Public Library budget for fiscal year 25. Do we have any public input on that tonight? Seeing no one here, anything virtually?
No one virtually.
All right. Back to the table then for discussion and questions. Ms. Farber.
Of course. So I wanted to, first off, congratulate you on the makerspace and it's very impressive, all of the STEM activities that you're doing for the participants and for the young audience. I think that is absolutely great. And I don't know if a lot of people are aware, but that you are basically supporting one of our priorities for digital equity for the city by the fact that you're offering equipment in your iPads and your computers to those that cannot afford one themselves. So I wanted to thank you for that, because that's very important for our Internet for All access as well, some of the broadband initiatives that we're taking time to do as well. So I wanted to thank you as a nonprofit in that respect for helping with that wonderful Internet for All program that we do have. And just one other question about the you had one request for a marketing coordinator, and it appears right now you currently have that person in place, and that person will be moving off that position this year or next year? What is the?
Before I started I believe it had been an ask previously and it was not recommended. And the library board went ahead and that position has been getting paid out of the Muchler Trust for the past, well, at least 3 years, and I can't remember exactly what year that started, and has continued to be paid out of there. I mean, it's a vital position for us to help get our information out to the community. So yeah, well, I believe the board will, but every year the board has to approve that to continue to pay that out of that Muchler Trust.
Okay, because you showed that it wasn't carrying on in 2025, but you think going forward it still will be continued, because that is important
Yeah,
for you.
I would always advocate with the library board to continue to support that position. Obviously for stability, it would be fantastic for the person who's in that position to have it be in the general fund and know about it. But I know what the difficulties are this year, so.
Okay, appreciate that. Well, thank you for that, because it would be unfortunate if you did lose that position to help you with all the promotions and all the things that you're doing for the community. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. So much going on at the library. It's fantastic how it's a community center. I'm just curious, I was looking through there. Do you host like school class visits throughout the year where they come and they see what's at the library?
Yeah.
It's amazing what they could do with, search for this, search for that, and I forget what those searches are called. Some kind of fun thing, but there's so much that the school, you cannot be bored at the library. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on in so many different areas. So I'm glad that you have great numbers and doing a lot of things. And I just didn't know if you hosted those visits. Is it a regular thing or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it just depends on, I think it was just 2 weeks ago, Bryant Elementary had their entire second grade student population come through and do a tour. They were there for maybe an hour, hour and a half, and they got a story time and then also just kind of a nice tour around the youth department. So, but we also have a full-time youth department outreach coordinator that collaborates with the schools quite a bit, does some book discussions, and tries to get into the schools as much as possible. So it's kind of a two-way street where we're going to them and they're coming to us as well.
I know you have a lot of great summer activities for the youth and adults as well as, and you're in the Dubuque Leisure Services brochure, which is fantastic. And so a lot going on, and I'm just really excited about what's going on down there. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nick, I'm continually impressed with how innovative you guys are at the library. It is such an innovative team that is thinking about what it means to be a library at this point in our history. It's different. I mean, it's not the same thing. What you're showing us right there, that was done at the library. That's not something that we'd think about very often, right? But that's super cool that you're able to do that, and people can do that themselves. For themselves, and with your assistance and with the assistance of your staff, and I know that you mentioned there's challenges budget wise, and it's always challenging trying to figure out what we're going to fund, what we're not, and I appreciate the fact too that there's a great partnership that we have with you as a library, with the different trusts that you have, and the fact you have a library board, and we make that work. It can be challenging in a lot of places, but we've done a really good job of it here, and I appreciate the work that library board does to try and continue to carry this innovation forward. I think it's really important. I don't know if anybody else finds it really strange and alarming how libraries are under attack in a democracy like ours. I find it absolutely weird, to be honest with you. I've heard people say things like libraries are, the term mission creep is a fun one that people like to use, that you're going beyond what a mission of a library should be. I think that's just kind of rubbish, honestly. I mean, I just don't think it makes much sense. I think that the fact that you are innovative, the fact that you provide so many services for a community to be able to come and learn new things, explore the world, explore science, explore the arts. You have great art at the library, to explore all these things. That's what brings vibrancy to a community. And the fact that places like yours are under attack by too many people right now, wanting to scale back what you do, I just think that's the absolute wrong approach to where we are now. So I thank you for what you're doing and appreciate it. Continue to look forward to ways that we can help to make that a possibility, and we're doing some of that, some of the things that we're able to do this year. But I don't talk to anybody who says to me that, they go to the library and they're like, oh, that library, it was no fun. That place wasn't a great place to be. People love it at the Carnegie-Stout Public Library. So thank you very much to you and your entire staff for the work that you do. We are supportive of it. I am supportive of it and really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, I think that's it for the Carnegie-Stout Public Library presentation. So thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you. Have a nice rest of your evening.
Yeah, will do.
Thanks, Nick.
Next up, we have the Dubuque Regional Airport. Our screens are waking up, so Todd, we are ready when you are.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Todd Dulsing, Dubuque Regional Airport. I'm going to leave our mission statement up while I introduce our Dubuque Airport commissioners. From left to right on your screen, we have Michael Phillips. He's our chair. Marianne Kurtz-Weber, vice chair. Sue Clemenson, R.J. Blocker, and joining us tonight is also Doug Brotherton. And Doug, I got to put you on the spot. I couldn't remember the exact years, but I know it's plus 30 years of volunteering as an airport commissioner. So thank you for your service. And but I'm not 100% sure on that. But anyways, but thank you all for your service. Airport Commission goals as we go around, very obvious, retain and increase commercial air service, expand corporate and general aviation services, increase visibility and awareness of airport services, maintain existing facilities, as we have several, expand facilities to attract new business and increase service levels, increase and diversify our revenue streams, and moving on to our Dubuque Airport organizational chart. From your left to right under our airport administration, we have Dan Claus. He's our assistant director, and he oversees the operations and airport maintenance department. Cheryl Sheldon, our airport accountant, who's also joining us this evening. And then we have a vacant airport marketing position. And by the way, the vacant positions on this slide are frozen pending additional air service. But the airport marketing, and that's a part-time position again, has been absorbed a little bit by Randy Gale and his team with the city PIO office and then also airport staff. In our airport operations, they're the folks that are the day-to-day 24/7, 365 folks that are there for safety and security. We have Jesse Kramer, Ben Pankratz, and Chad Welsh. In our airport maintenance, we have Jason DeMeo and Jeff Petty, our maintenance workers, and Bob Moyer, our mechanic. And then we also have Connie Simon as our custodial part-time. Under Dubuque Jet Center, and those are the folks that do the ground handling of all the aircraft, the fueling, the hangaring, marshaling, all the things that go along with it. Mark Beasley is our FBO supervisor. Tim and Reese are our assistant FBO supervisor. We have two Tinas, so we have a Tina Herrig and Tina Malone. They're our customer service representatives. Those are part-time positions. And then we average about 7 to 10, maybe sometimes a little more part-time line service workers. Creating an equitable community of choice. Dubuque follows the Airport Equity Plan, and with the assistance of Gisela and her team, we recently incorporated signage and announcements in the terminal for our limited English proficient customers. As in the past, we've incorporated FAA disadvantaged business entrepreneurs and targeted small business plans into airport projects. We utilize electric ground handling equipment, upgrading our building and airfield to sustainable technology. Our terminal building, as we're all very proud of, is Silver LEED certified and will soon be powered by solar. And we have multiple federal, state, local business and organizational partnerships. And we also continue to have a very low full-time turnover rate and encourage the use of our city employee assistance program for all of our employees and quite honestly, their families. As a reminder, the airport has received 3 rounds of federal relief funds totaling just over $3.3 million that can be used for debt service, operational costs, and which also includes our local match on our FAA Airport Improvement Program projects. The federal airport relief funds are included in our FY25 requested budget summary. The grant at the bottom, the BIL grant totaling just over $1.3 million, are in addition to our federal relief funds. Federal relief grant funds do reduce our airport tax askings. All funds have been or will be used for debt service, equipment, and capital projects. The Dubuque Regional Airport Master Plan was approved and adopted by the City Council and Airport Commission in 2021. It's a small read. It's a 541-page document to assist guiding the airport over the next 15 years. Chapters include our current inventory, forecasts, facility requirements, alternatives, recommended development, and our capital improvement plan. There's also an appendix that discusses solid waste, recycling plans, energy assessment, and economic input. Complete copy is available on our website at flydbq.com. So following our master plan recommendations for FY24, the capital improvement projects in progress are under the federal side, where we reconstruct Taxiway Alpha Phase 2, construct solar PV system, reconstruct general aviation apron Phase 1, and under the state side, we're currently under hangar construction. Talk about those. Reconstruct Taxiway Alpha Phase 2 project includes site work, grading, removal, and replacement of Taxiway Alpha as shown on the slide. This again is an FAA AIP project with an estimated total of just under $6 million, and that's 90% federal and 10% local. That'll be coming from the federal relief funds. The construct solar PV system slide shows the location of the solar array next to the terminal ring road to provide power to the terminal. Contract was awarded to Eagle Point Solar, and project will begin actually next week, April 1st. And we have been working with Maquoketa Valley on this project as well, and they have told us that this is going to be the largest solar system on the grid, actually by 2 times. So this again is another FAA project, just under $1.5 million. This is a project 95% is funded through the BIL funds, and 5% local match is also coming from the federal relief funds. Reconstruct the general aviation apron Phase 1. This project reconstructs approximately half of our general aviation, or 15,000 square yards. The apron serves as the primary parking, ground handling area for general aviation. The apron pavement is in poor condition according to the FAA approved pavement maintenance condition survey of 2022 that justifies our request and approval for federal funding. This one's broken up a little bit more. We have state, FAA state DOT project of we're estimating about $3.2 million. That's 95% federally funded, again, through the BIL funds. There's about $400,000 of state funding through their AIP program, and then our 5% local match, again, will come from federal relief funds. FY24 new hangar construction diagram from left to right on the slide. Hangar 84 is a new land lease that the tenant constructed the hangar, and that's been completed. Then the center, the hangar number 93, that's a new land lease again. And again, tenant construct the hangar that's currently under construction, completion spring of 24 or this spring. And hangar 105 is the airport is constructing a hangar using the DOT Iowa Commercial Aviation Infrastructure funding, and then of course we'll enter into an annual hangar lease with our tenant. This is 100% state funded, 0% local. just under $2.8 million project. It was a one-time grant from the governor's office using state ARPA funds. And that, as I mentioned, is currently under construction, and we anticipate a completion here in the next couple months. And then a couple of pictures of, just to give you an idea of the current progress of that hangar as of probably a week or two ago. So following the master plan recommendation, our FY25 capital improvement proposed projects include a reconstruction taxiway Alpha Phase 3, terminal building modification to increase our sterile hold area. That grant will be submitted in the next round of FAA airline terminal program funding. And of course, construction would be pending receipt of that grant. And then we're also proposing terminal exit lane modification. So rehabilitate taxiway Alpha Phase 3. This is again the continuation of a multi-year project. FY25 portions are highlighted in purple on the slide. Another FAA AIP project, just over $5 million, 90% federally funded. And this one, 10% local funding will come from general obligation debt funds. Terminal security improvement. To meet security requirements, Dubuque is implementing exit lane technology improvements. This is a combination of Iowa DOT commercial service vertical infrastructure, that's what the CSVI stands for, and CFC, or customer service facility fees, and that's what we get each time somebody rents a rental car, we get a small a portion of that. This project is estimated to be around $300,000, but there will be zero local funds with this project. Our FY25 requested operating budget summary. And our FY25 net property tax support and annual average homeowners property tax costs. And our FY25 recommended improvement requests, we have two. We have increased advertising, which was not recommended. However, we are working with the city manager and the budget office to have those funds be carried over from this current year's budget, 2024. And the addition of 2 baggage carts is recommended. Performance measures, aviation fuel gallons sold over the past 4 years. The graph shows aviation fuel only. We do also offer MoGas or auto gas and diesel, but this is just Jet A and 100 low lead. The blue column on the left shows the gallons sold. The green column on the right shows the net profit. Dubuque has 84 based aircraft in a variety of hangars. The number and type of aircraft are provided in the graph, and there's some examples included in the slide. Compared to other Iowa commercial airports, Dubuque ranks 3rd in total based aircraft. However, as many of you may have heard, the University of Dubuque is growing, or has been growing over the years, but continues to grow, and they're proposing to add an additional 10 aircraft this summer. And those would be similar to the aircraft pictured on the bottom right. Dubuque Airport aircraft operations, and so you understand what an aircraft operation is. An operation is defined as a takeoff or a landing of an aircraft. Numbers are calculated on a calendar year and include all types of aircraft, including like helicopters or rotors. Dubuque is the 2nd busiest airport in Iowa with just over 72,000 aircraft operations. And you can see how we rank with other airports, and Chicago O'Hare is at the bottom, by the way, on that slide. Staff continues to work with our tenants to promote high-quality airport services. Blue Skies over Dubuque provides aircraft maintenance to local and transient general aviation and our commercial aircraft customers. University of Dubuque, as I just mentioned, has over 300 students, instructors, and staff operating out of the Babka Flight Center and 3 corporate hangars. EAA, or Experimental Aircraft Association, has over 100 members, and they occupy hangar space as part of our partnership with the airport to help build general aviation and awareness and education. Civil Air Patrol has over 40 members. Mission is supporting America's communities with emergency response, diverse aviation and ground services, youth development, and promotion of airspace and cyber power. NICC has partnered with UD, EAA, and the airport, and we've all worked together to help provide an accredited avionics maintenance program. As you all know, there's a demand for the aviation workforce, so we're trying to fill that niche. But unfortunately, currently that's on hold this semester as they search for a new professor. And all the above organizations also volunteer during the wide variety of airport events that are held at the airport throughout the year. Partnerships providing community outreach at airport through tours and gatherings, and I've got a few pictures on the screen there from previous tours. And next, I'd like to give you a quick update on commercial air service. So Dubuque Air was pretty newly formed and meets, officially formed, I should say, and meets weekly with ongoing, and I should say, and it is weekly, every Thursday with ongoing mission to restore, maintain, and increase commercial air service. Board members include City of Dubuque Mayor Kavanaugh, Dubuque County Supervisor Potoff, Dubuque Racing Association Alex Dixon, Chamber of Commerce Molly Grover, Travel Dubuque Keith Ray, Greater Dubuque Development Jason White, Airport Commissioner Marianne Kurtz-Weber, and myself. Dubuque Air Board and members currently have a DOT Small Community Air Service Development Grant in the amount of just under $2.1 million as we continue to work to attract daily scheduled service to a hub. Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce recently held an air service forum, actually last month. Mayor Kavanaugh, Molly Grover, Matt Skinner, our air carrier consultant, and myself provided update and answered questions. And of course, we were emphasizing the 3 Dubuque Air goals and objectives. And a business and residential study was also completed with an impressive over 8,100 responses. Some of the top results show that 97% of residents, 95% employers expect increased air service will have a positive impact on the greater Dubuque economy. 91% of residents support efforts to recruit air service, and 73% employers support efforts to recruit air service, understanding it may require financial guarantees. Highlights of that full survey can be found on our website. Avelo calendar year 2023 revenue passenger employments equaled 17,389. And Sun Country calendar year 23 revenue passenger employments equaled 1,633. And why are employments important? In 2023, with the combination of those two, Dubuque employments totaled 19,022 outbound passengers. Because we've exceeded 10,000 employments, Dubuque retains $1 million in FAA, Airport Capital Improvement Program funds. If we were to go below 10,000, Dubuque would only receive about $150,000. AIP funds are used for projects mentioned earlier in this presentation, the taxiway and the apron. Other examples of eligible items are runways, airfield lighting, signage, snow removal equipment, fire trucks, terminal improvements, and more, and all those are funded at 90% federal levels. Airport events, Dubuque, or the airport hosts and attends numerous events throughout the year. There's just a few we put on a slide here just to give you an idea. We attended the U.S. Secretary of Transportation community visit. Representative Hinson's Air Service Roundtable was held at the airport. I mentioned the Air Service Forum that was held at the Julian last month. And then we also hosted a aviation conference, or AAAE, Great Lakes Conference, and that was a family-friendly event with over 300 attendees at the Grand River Center, and guests were touring the tri-state area attractions, and of course we had to take them to the Field of Dreams. 2 honor flights of Dubuque over 2 days flew veterans and volunteers to DC to view monuments and gather with their fellow comrades. There are 2 additional honor flights scheduled for this May of 2024. I recognize someone in the picture there. July 3rd, Air Show and Fireworks is on the left. North American Trainers Formation Clinic is on the right. Those have been an ongoing events for numerous years. I'm happy to say both will be back again this year. This July, Dubuque will hold our annual Captain Martin Terminal Anniversary Celebration, and this year I'm excited to announce that we're going to feature author Karen Patterson and her newly released book, Red Tail, and obviously that's the story and history about Captain Robert Martin. I haven't had the chance to read it. We did receive, they sent us 2 copies. Staff took them right away, and they've been gone and reading them, so I haven't read them yet, but I've heard very good things. But Captain Martin family and Karen will be in attendance for discussion, answer questions, and book signing, and there'll be more details to come. That'll be in late July. And new this summer, we've got the Commemorative Air Force, and they'll be making a stop at Dubuque in July 25th through the 28th. Public is invited to tour the aircraft on the apron, and even if you're interested, you can book a ride. And there's a Confederate Air Force website there, and there'll be more information on, well, there's already some information out on social media, but of course there'll be links on our website. So with that, we thank you all for your support, and we encourage everyone to visit that website, flydbq.com, and for more information, frequently asked questions. And thank you all again for your support, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Well, thank you, Todd. We are on a public hearing to discuss the Dubuque Regional Airport budget for fiscal year 25. Do we have any public input here? I don't see anyone. Anything virtually?
No one virtually.
All right. Then back to us for discussion and questions, please. Not all at once. Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. And so I traveled with you in one of your many travels to attract more air service. And we have such a wonderful team, and you're a wonderful head of the team, and you do such a good job representing what it really means to have that airport in Dubuque. And I know you have a great team with you, and our mayor's on that team as well. And wherever we go, we talk about the importance, and we'll do whatever we can do to get that daily service. And thank you for your services on behalf of our citizens and our businesses, and just in the regional area. And there's so much good news here. I hate to start with the bummer that we don't have that yet, but there's always things percolating, and I don't know if you can give us, I know you don't want to say anything until anything is inked, but there's always possibilities around the corner, right? You looking around the corner, we do see possibilities, right?
Yeah, we always have ongoing conversations with all air carriers. We always maintain good relations with not only the legacy carriers, your American, who did unfortunately leave us back in September, but American, United, Delta, Southwest, et cetera. But then even the next layer down, the regional carriers, your SkyWest, Contours, Denver Airs, et cetera. I mean, there's a longer list there, and then there's even another list under that. So we do work closely with our air service consultant, Matt Skinner, and that is his job, is to make sure Dubuque is on top of mind of all these folks all the time. And then wherever we get a chance, we reach out as well. So yeah, I know, we've kind of progressed. There's also the Chamber Air Service Task Force that meets monthly. And from that was the CAST group, Commercial Air Service Team, and of that evolved Dubuque Air. And I can promise you that all those groups, and they all have representation of city, county, chamber, Greater Dubuque Development, Travel Dubuque, DRA, multiple, business partnerships and other organizations, and everyone. I'm impressed. When I go out and talk about this at other communities, they're like, so you actually work together with this organization or that, and they're not working, it's very impressive how everybody's able to work together on this common goal. And I think it is something that we will be able to achieve. And yes, so yeah, the good news is we're continuing to maintain these and build these relationships with these regional carriers. And eventually as pilot shortage starts loosening up, and assets start loosening up, we're hoping that it becomes a positive outcome for Dubuque and the tri-state area, really, not
Yes,
just
thank you.
Dubuque.
And I remember when we were out of Washington, D.C., priority 1, 2, and 3
Yeah.
was all with you and your team. And so thanks for doing so much. And we have to remain positive because that's how we do it. And things are going to happen. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
for
Mayor.
your support.
And Mr. Mayor, just to add on to what Mr. Resnick said, and also kudos to everything that you're doing and all the efforts that are ongoing. One of the things we also talked about in Washington was the fact of a regional focus in terms of getting regional partners to work with us on the concept of the additional air service. Is there any more progress? I know that you had mentioned that when we were out in DC.
As far as like the regional carriers?
Well, no, like Platteville to come in and join us, and Dyersville, and some of the
sure.
other counties and cities that are in
Excellent.
the tri-state area that
Yeah.
also want to promote their economy and also get a robust network of hubbing here for legacy carriers.
Yeah, and I'm also happy to report, actually, Dubuque Regional Airport is a member of not only the Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce, but we're also a member of the Dyersville, Galena, Platteville. I'm going to leave one or two out, but we do work with all of those chambers. And there was an excellent op-ed that was out by, was it the city manager, I think, of Platteville? Yeah, he reached out and we were able to provide some information. So, I think the tri-state area recognizes that this is a regional airport. This isn't an airport just for the Dubuque or even Dubuque County. It's a regional airport, and the importance of that air service, the economic impact importance to all of our, not only Dubuque, but our neighboring communities. So yes, we will continue to work with them and honestly across the state border legislators as well.
And then another shout out to the UD, who could also help partner because they're going to be the future pilots and the future managers of all of the airports throughout the U.S. So I think that's kind of an unsung hero for us to chat about as well.
Yeah, they are great. They're a fantastic partner, and I think I just touched on it, but I think they're around 350. I mean, I know you're on the board too, but
yeah, I know it's
they're at like 350 students and whatever that 26 aircraft, but they're going to increase it to another 10 aircraft, and I think they're reaching for like a 500 student goal. So we're filling the gaps.
Yeah, we're trying. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Got to hand it to you on your excellence in a whole bunch of careers at the airport, or a whole bunch of positions, all of which you got good at, and all of which are hard. And this juggling act of keeping everybody happy and managing the whole operation is a big change from the technical aspects of operations that you did before. I've noticed, the community I think has noticed that you really have excelled at that as well. So thank you. Also got to hand it to the people that stand behind you or stand with you. I think probably beside you in the case of a tight operation like that. When I first met Doug Brotherton, who's volunteered a long time for you, he was a volunteer swim coach at the Y about, should I say the year, Doug? About 1971 or two? Was quite a while ago, but this is a guy that's been volunteering his whole life to make things better, still doing it. Thank you. And your staff is second to none. Friendly people that do everything. We took an Avilo flight last winter to Orlando, and everything was great about it. But I was kind of surprised at who I saw checking in baggage and checking people through the initial security gates and stuff. It's and everybody does everything operation, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ms. Wetham.
I just want to make sure that everybody at home hears that we have the second highest tower operations in the state of Iowa.
That's correct.
And boy, I think that I was so impressed when I came for my tour some time ago now, but at how busy our airport really is, even though we are not currently with our daily air service that we desire, but we will get there. I believe that. I was going to, I guess it's an echo of what Mr. Jones said. I feel that you are an advocate locally, collaborative with partners. You work at the federal level on a first name basis with partners. You run an airport. You make sure you have adequate staff. you manage big events like Honor Flight, which, by the way, was just a really impressive showing of all that you guys do. So thank you, and I appreciate that you are here and that you have excellent staff, and thanks for working so hard.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Spring.
Thank you, Todd, for everything and your staff's been doing out there. We know it's been discouraging these last couple of years. There were, not to speak ill of Elveo, but do we have any sense what their plans are or schedule is, or, because I know there were citizens that were kind of discouraged that, oh, they're not coming, they've left, and yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So, as obviously, as you all know, and we have announced that they have adjusted their schedule to a seasonal service. So the last flight will be April 6th. But they have assured us as late at this point, obviously there's operational changes, things happen in the world, et cetera. But we are currently on the schedule to restart in November. So that's encouraging. And just to remind everyone, current schedule is Wednesdays and Saturdays. We anticipate that would be similar in the fall. So that, yeah, that's the plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was waiting to see if Mr. Sell, did you have anything?
Yes,
Yeah, please.
I wanted to add that I was very impressed with the number of slides in the presentation that showed the use of state and federal grants that stretch our that stretch our local dollars to improve our airport. And I want to just thank all of the staff that know what grants are available and seek them out and help us to attain them. And I also want to say thank you for just another opportunity here for our community to hear about all the hard work that's going on every week and sometimes on a daily basis to bring that daily service back to our community. So thank you, Todd, and everyone on the group that's working so hard for that for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to basically echo here, but there's so much positive in this presentation that you gave us. I think the story gets lost how active the airport is. I mean, the second most tower operations in the state of Iowa. We have, I mean, we're nearing the next, you said 84 current based aircraft tenants. Does that include UD?
It includes UD,
Yeah, so
but not the 10 that are coming. So if we
Sure,
add
yeah,
10
so you
to
add the
that,
10,
so
then
we'll be
we're based up,
second.
we're almost near Des
tied.
Moines. I mean, we almost have as many planes parked and staying there as Des Moines does. And I was just blown away by the aviation fuel gallons sold. I mean, the net profit of $1.1 million of aviation fuel that was sold at the airport. That's not an airport that's anywhere near closing. That's not an airport that's not active at all. There was a map last night in last night's presentation. It was for the GIS presentation. Nikki Rosemeyer showed it to us. She made a map for you about the different airports and the services that are there. And that map was striking to me because every single one of those airports has service in the state of Iowa, except for us, because we are not an essential air service airport. That's right there, so we don't belong in that, or we don't qualify for that program. And we're not Cedar Rapids in Des Moines. Nobody else is Cedar Rapids in Des Moines. That's just not the way it's ever going to work. But I think you stated it pretty clearly, and we've said it over and over again. Failure is not an option in this case. We are getting commercial air service back, period. It is one of our highest priorities here in Washington. As Mr. Resnick pointed out, it was priority 1, 2, and 3 for those discussions. It's going to happen, and then we're going to keep it, and we're going to continue to improve it because this community deserves it, and you're working really hard at it. On top of that, though, you're providing an incredibly professional experience for a lot of tenants at the airport. So you and your staff are doing incredible work for that, and I definitely want to make sure that people recognize it. The one concern that I had was about the advertisement, but you actually answered that for me. It sounds like, because we're going to need an advertising budget when it comes to time to actually have the commercial service back. But the fact that you are working with the city manager to be able to move that to the next from the last budget year into this budget year, that's great. And I also think that Dubuque Air is going to be a part of that. But I just want to point out, I am concerned about over leveraging our public information office for this particular purpose when it's a pretty specific need. So I'm glad that we have some money that we're going to be able to use so that you can do some of that advertising yourself as an airport and not lean so heavily on the public information office to do that.
Yes.
So it sounds like that's going to be, we're going to be able to take care of that.
Yeah, we have funds budgeted for that part-time position. And then, just to be fair, we do have marketing funds currently in our budget as well. As a matter of fact, we've got an 80/20 grant with the Iowa Department of Transportation Aviation. It's at airport, trying to remember the acronym, but it's ASD, Air Service Development.
We don't need any more acronyms.
I know. That, all I know them by is the acronym, so I try to think of what it actually means. Air Service Development Program, and it's an 80/20 match. So the state will kick in 80%, we pick 20%. So we do have marketing funds in our budget currently, as well as a budgeted part-time position to help us with that. So however we choose to do that, there are funds available. We weren't just asking for $10,000. We're asking for an addition of $10,000.
Sure.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Good. Well, thank you very much for figuring out another creative way to get that done, because it's a really important piece of this whole puzzle. Okay. Well, Todd, thank you very much to you and your entire team for the presentation and for another great year. We will complete then the presentation for the Dubuque Regional Airport. Moving on next to the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support. Okay, everybody, we are ready for the next presentation. So the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support. Anderson, take it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor and City Council members. First of all, I just want to always start off by thanking you for your leadership and service to Dubuque. I had a great opportunity last night to listen to the presentation last night and heard how much they pay you, the big bucks, right, to do this work. But with all jokes aside, we know as leaders that what we're doing right now is planting the seed that one day someone will be able to benefit off the fruits of our labor. So I know the work that you guys do personally, and I'm thankful for the sacrifice that you guys do to make Dubuque an equitable community of choice. That's something that I live by, I believe in my heart, in my veins, and our team does as well. I also want to take the time to thank the city manager. It's not often that we get to publicly do this, and even personally, I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank you for your service to the residents of Dubuque. I know the amount of hours, countless of hours you put for this community, sacrifice and blood, and even personally for me, the mentorships and guidance for the past 8 to 10 plus years. I know one of the reasons why I continue to stay in this organization is because leaders like you. And we all know that leadership matters, so thank you for the work that you do. So today, we're gonna have some fun here. There's gonna be 3 presenters today. I get to start us off by talking about the history of our department, the structure, our amazing staff, some of our accomplishments that we said we were gonna accomplish last year. And then the meat and potatoes gets to go with Braden, who's gonna talk about data. And I want to be transparent. We won't be able to talk about every single data point. As a matter of fact, we won't even be able to scratch the surface. We had to do a lot of cuts in our presentations, but we're looking forward to come to a council session where we can be with our partners to talk about a lot of the work that we've been able to do. And earlier on, we talked about establishing and building partnerships. Well, guess what? Our department is going to be able to talk about how we work with both public-private partners and, most importantly, neighborhood associations. So a little bit about the history of our department, the morph. In 2018 and 20 goal setting, you made a bold decision. Each and every single one of you and the previous leaders before you, the bold decision was to make poverty a top priority. Why? Because you listened. You listened to the residents of Dubuque, and you heard from your people that there were people struggling. They were struggling to make ends meet. Despite all of the great things that has and was happening in Dubuque, people were struggling. And so not only did you listen, you encouraged us to do an RFP, and we had a consultant by the name of Public Work LLC to come to Dubuque to help us to understand why are people struggling in this community. So this organization studied and did a lot of research at the local, national, and federal level on best practice, met with a lot of organizations in the community, boots on the ground, so kind of a robust community engagement strategy with both public, private partners, and those that are living in poverty. We actually did a lot of videos with those who are experiencing poverty to understand, again, why are you struggling, right? It's not just because it's an individual experience. People are not willing to work or grind or tie up their bootstrap or whatever they have on their feet. It's because the system wasn't working for everyone, only for a few. And so not only did they meet with people collectively, as we talked about partnership, they came together and identified 50 various ideas or promising practices, what you see in our plan, to say, hey, here are some existing things that Dubuque is doing very well that we have to continue to support, and here are some ideas that you need to focus on. And one of those ideas was to transform a neighborhood development division that was already in place within the city and said, let's turn this to the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support, where this department would focus on bringing people together and focus on the system. And later on, I'll talk about the system and how we focus on system, because that's not a common word that the average resident know about. But I'll give you a prime example with the DC trip that we just recently went on. So our mission is simple. We're trying to address, prevent, and reduce poverty from a systemic level. And we're not just trying to do this for individuals, we're trying to do this for neighborhoods. We recognize that throughout our community that we have segments of our community that are still struggling, that we have to find intentional and concentrated ways to put the right resources that those community needs in order to thrive just like everyone else. So when I say system, what does that mean? So you should have a handout. This is a one-pager that we take wherever we go throughout the community, throughout the country, to talk about the work that we do. Again, our work is to address, prevent, and reduce poverty. How we do that is through our approach. One of the first things that you see is data. I know many of you up there love data. You have to have data. Understand the problem, and let's drill down the data, slice it to see how various community members are being impacted by the 8 determinants that you see here at the center. We try to bring partners together. In many spaces, there's already existing relationships that are already built. We want to enhance those relationships. So again, we can talk about the root issues. In Dubuque, we have a lot of partners that are doing great work, that are trying to put the fire out, but not often are we looking at the data to understand, are we truly making a collective impact? We have to begin to use data, we have to center data, and we have to center the most vulnerable in everything we do. Because we recognize when we center the most vulnerable, it benefits us all. The next thing that we try to do is we try to bring new people to the table, and not just to have them at the table. As you heard me in DC, we want to make sure that those who are closest to the problem are helping us to design the solution. That's another way how you intentionally change the system. You invite the people who are most troubled by those systems. And then for us, we invest. And how we invest is through a small grant that we provide through neighborhood associations, because it's not just giving people money. We've said that for the past 2 to 3 years. This is about making sure people have the tools and resources that they need in order to impact their community. So again, when I talk about system work, let's talk about the DC trip. As many of you know, it's a busy few days where Terry Goodman is like 21 years old and she's just moving. You got to try to keep up with her, right? And we're meeting with a variety of community or federal partners to talk about equitable access to a variety of things. A second ago, you heard about air travel. You heard about digital access. You heard about infrastructure to get people a bridge or technology to get to work, to do telehealth. These are all resources that are out there that disproportionately, there's various communities that are left out. Is that intentional? Is that by design? Sometimes because we're not at the table having the conversations collectively. And so what we try to do is make sure we're at those tables to advocate on behalf. That's what system work is, changing policies, programs, procedures in order to make sure everyone has access. And again, when you center the most vulnerable, it benefits everyone. And a wise man once said, and most recently said, if we don't center the most vulnerable and if we don't help the most vulnerable become successful in this community, we have failed. I want to say that again because that was powerful for me when I heard that. If we don't center the most vulnerable in the work that we do and help them to be successful, we have failed, not just in the community, but also internally as an organization. We saw the data yesterday. How are certain communities doing? Our employees. There are certain people that are not thriving. If we're not putting them first or centering them in the conversation, we have failed. So how are we helping to create an equitable community of choice? Again, this is something that I'm so passionate about. I'm happy that you made this a priority. There's some specific things that we want to just highlight. We assist internally with a variety of trainings, intercultural competency training, to make sure people understand who they are themselves and also how do they make room for others. We also assist with data collection, data gathering, and we slice the data in many different ways to understand how every single community member is doing. We also, this year, we co-designed City Life in Spanish. You're going to hear Tim Wall, who's super excited to share that story with you, with previous people who participated in City Life to ensure that all community members know how their government works and how their voice matters and how their voice can help shape policies and practices that impacts their community. Throughout the community, we try to collaborate with the many partners to ensure, again, everyone has a voice and everyone's rowing the boat in the same direction, especially around poverty. And the key, again, to that is using data. And the last thing is we advocate at the local, state, and federal level. I already mentioned the DC trip. We have the privilege to be selected by the governor to focus on workforce at the state level. Councilmember Farber, I do have it in my notes to share. Last year, you asked us, what's our role with the hospital? So we also assist with the hospital with their grant with Mercy One to make sure that we're deploying resources to the community members who need it the most to address health inequities in our community. So we're super excited to be engaged throughout the community. Mayor, you said last year, man, you guys are everywhere. That's by design. We walk everywhere. We try to be wherever we can on purpose, on mission to make sure we're all rowing the boat. And as you can see on this picture, I love this picture right here. Last year I had the privilege of being on a panel with Brian Moose and also the mayor to address the role of government when it comes to addressing poverty. And so it was an amazing conversation. I got invited this year again, so I'll be traveling in a few weeks, I believe, to talk about building a regional hub for this community because they too want to create an equitable poverty prevention plan. We have some new staff, and we are saying some farewell. Brian Moose, who many of you have seen and heard, and most recently in D.C., that's where he resides, and that's where he works with the federals. I know he's watching right now, so I want to publicly say thank you for your service to the residents of Dubuque. While he was here, he was responsible for initiatives like the Community Health Needs Assessment, identifying what a livable wage is in partnership with the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque, and updating our poverty metrics using the census data. And now we're transitioning Braden, who is an amazing rock star. I told every single coworker today that you don't know what I'm going to say. You don't know how I'm going to embarrass you. So he is an amazing person, a true go-getter, I believe he's been here for a few months, and actually last month, he wanted to know more about food deserts. And so just randomly, he said, I want to know more about food desert, and he went to the food pantry. He went to go connect with the executive director, offer his service for data, because a lot of these nonprofit organizations don't have someone to help them with data. Having good data will allow you to apply for some of these federal grants that are out there. And so Braden offered his service to them. And not only did he offer his service, he offered our service, because today and quarterly now, we're providing service to the food pantry, just serving boxes, getting out in the community, feeding people who need it the most. And it was an amazing experience for our staff today to put boxes together, go to where the elderlies are at, and feed them. And this is a shout out and hopefully a marketing strategy for them. The food pantry does need volunteers, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They provide a lot of food to a lot of people who need it, but they need workers. There's an old saying, the harvest is plenty, the workers are few. And there's a lot of workers in here, and I'm excited that Braden and Liz here is leading that effort. Speaking of Liz Martin, I want to thank you, Council, for making workforce a top priority. Liz originally was part-time, but with hard work and passion and a commitment to the city. We are currently now leveraging her with 3 different departments to figure out how can we make things more efficient. Liz is big with process. Ms. Farber, you would love her because she also is coming from the private sector asking, why aren't we using technology better to make things better, right? And so I'm super excited to work with a strong woman like Liz, who also wants to bring other administrative staff together to talk about boots on the ground leaders. How can we do things better, right? And so I'm super thankful for her. And here's the team. I'm excited to be the coach of this team, but these are the players that do the work every single day. It's not me, it's them, each and every single one of them. You have Liz, again, with process, making things more efficient for 3 departments now. Tim Wong, who you guys are going to be blown away by who he is. Everywhere where I go in this community, people know Tim Wong, right? And again, that's by design. A lot of you are shaking your head. He's at the coffee shops. He's at the food pantry. He's at the library. He's doing city life. He's everywhere in this community. And we're so thankful for who he is, his personality, and the energy that he brings to every single space. That matters, having the right energy. Braden with data, community engagement and data, we say go hand in hand because you got to have the data and the story behind it. And Braden's going to be able to build our data infrastructure with a lot of internal partners. And then you just got me, the tall guy, right? And so I'm super excited. And I don't say this enough to my own team, but I'm proud of you. And I'm thankful for each and every single one of you. You know, there's moments as a leader when all of us been here before, we're like, is this where I'm supposed to be? Is this the work that I'm supposed to be doing? Is it time for me to give this up? But these 3 right here remind me every single day why we do the work that we do. They have a winning mindset, a winning culture over there, and they make work coming to just fun every single day. And again, I don't get to say that enough. So last year, we were bold and we said, hey, here are the things that we want to accomplish. We want to come to you and say, we did it. Well, I'm coming to you to say, hey, for a lot of it, we did it, right? And again, it's not us. It's working with our community partners externally and internally. We don't do anything without partnerships, good partnership. So we said we were going to create City Life in Spanish. We did that. We said we were going to create neighborhood association toolkits where residents who want to get together with their neighbors and build a sense of community but don't know how to do it. We created a step-by-step process where it's not just a piece of paper, which again you have in front of you, but Tim Wall is able to walk through that process with existing associations and new prospects. We said we were going to build a data governance policy, and with the transition with Brian Moose, we haven't been able to do it, but we have a grant from the National League of Cities to move us forward, and Braden is running wild, but not by himself, with the entire team internally. And so I'm super excited to see where that goes, and again, how we can bring relevant data that's important to you at goal setting and also throughout the year. We also said we were gonna continue to partner with partners on the poverty prevention plan. That's gonna be ongoing. I'm gonna have the privilege of talking to you about the economic mobility cohort. We're going to talk about the livable wage. That's going to be ongoing. Brian Moose came last year to tell you what people need in our community in order to just survive, the basic things based on very conservative numbers using a methodology. Brady's going to be able to tell you that. And we said we were going to increase neighborhood associations, which again, you'll see the hard work that Timwa has been doing. But in some of these areas, it's going to be ongoing work. We're just not trying to just create things and just let them hang out there. We want to make sure these things sustain if we're here or not. So I get to talk to you about this cool story. This is called the Economic Mobility Cohort with ICMA, funded by the Bill Gates Foundation. As I mentioned earlier, you guys were bold a few years ago where you said poverty is important and we're going to focus on it. Guess what? Everyone throughout the community now is focused on poverty reduction. As a matter of fact, the Bill Gates Foundation has millions of dollars out there to get other organizations and communities to focus on that. And so I want to congratulate you for being forward thinking. So we were one of 10 communities to be selected to focus on boosting economic mobility. Out of those 10 cities, we were the only one who already had an existing plan. And so that was super exciting. And community members were like, wait a minute, how did you get your city council to focus on this? How did you get your residents to focus on this? Again, we said, they're bold. They're listening to their residents. They made it a priority. We're just trying to execute. And so part of the cohort, what we receive is a mobility framework to talk about here are the concrete things that you can measure to focus on lifting people out of poverty, and $30,000 to advance some of our local efforts. And because we already had a plan, we were able to look at what council said they wanted us to do and look at our poverty prevention plan, align it, and then execute it in partnership. And so some of those things that I'll highlight is to expand awareness of Opportunity Dubuque, which is a program by Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, an amazing partner, and NICC to skill people up, put them in high demand jobs that pay a good wage. But we recognize there's not a lot of residents that know about that program and that are connected to it. So we wanted to find creative ways where we can connect people to existing resources. We also have Jill Connors, our Economic Development Director, who was giving small fundings to small entrepreneurs who wanted to start a business but couldn't get to a bank and leverage traditional capital. And so Jill was giving out $3,000, which was beneficial for some community members, but we asked Jill, what would you do if you had a little bit more flexible funding? And so we leveraged some of these resources to give to Jill so that way she can deploy to people who wanted to start their own business. And the last thing, we know Fountain of Youth is a priority for the community to support them, to help them to grow. And so we were able to provide them funding so that way they can purchase a transportation to take people to and from work. And again, I do want to thank our partners from Greater Dubuque. They were an active participant throughout, and also our city managing department, Corey Burbach, was actively involved as well. So I do want to make sure I acknowledge them and give them the recognition for their hard work. So the framework, you've heard us say this before, that poverty is just not giving people money, right? It's also about making sure people feel valued and also that they have the power and autonomy to influence what community looks like. And so for us, this is where city lives come in. How do we empower people, inform them how government works, and put them on boards and commissions and or neighborhood associations? Because we know that's where you can help influence what community looks like, right? Being or feeling valued in the community is a little harder to measure. But we recognize by real stories and connecting with people, you can understand where people are at. You can meet them where they're at. And again, I'll go back to the survey yesterday. We recognize internally that there's community members who do not feel valued, like they don't feel like they belong. And we have to intentionally figure out strategies to support them. And I'm excited that I get to work with leaders like the city manager who's bringing various groups together to figure out what's going on and what can we do. So here's the framework right here. And so these are a variety of data points that we will be looking at the local level, which is a challenge when you're a small-sized community, drilling some of these high-level points down to the local level. But we're going to try to do everything in our power to figure out what's the relevant data that matters for our community, where we can get that information, disaggregate that information, and bring it to you, our decision makers. And Mayor, I think about what you said to us last year. Collect everything, right? bring us the data. And we want to do that because when you're making big decisions and you're asking what can you do as a leader, you can look at the data and ask the tough questions. Who's benefiting from this? How are the most vulnerable doing? What can we do different? Who's missing at the table for us to make these decisions? So not only is data important, but as we learned in DC, real stories matter. So I want to share a few stories, then I'm going to allow Braden to come talk. Again, here's the scope of the work that we said we were going to focus on with the ICMA cohort. We were going to focus on opportunity to Dubuque, provide additional capital to leaders who wanted to start a business, and we wanted to provide funding for transportation for Fountain of Youth. So when we look at the data when it comes to unemployment rate, we recognize that based on the 2022 data that African Americans had a 37% unemployment rate compared to 3.6 for white residents in our community. And so we brought this information to community members, just walking the community, and we found some influencers, and we said, hey, listen, here's what the data is telling us, but guess what? We don't have the solution. We don't want to pretend like we have the solution. Can you help us? Can you partner with us to figure out what can we do differently? Because we recognize there's a lot of jobs out there, a lot of programs out there, but there's a disconnect. So working with some influencers in the community, they said, yeah, we'll help out. And so they came up with this 3-on-3 basketball program. And here's what's exciting. They said in order to play basketball, you have to have a job. If you don't have a job, you have to sign up for Opportunity Dubuque, which was pretty cool. And so we had NICC out there. We had a variety of community members doing what they love to do. So they're in their place of comfort, their place where they feel that they're belonging. And we're just bringing the resources to them. So we actively engage community members to help us solve the problem. And what we learned from that is, again, those who are closest to the problem have the solution. And what we have to do as leaders is continue to just not listen to community members when they bring a problem up or a solution, but we have to take proactive steps to support and fund those initiatives. And that may look different for every single community. And we have to be honest with what we're able to do, but this is the beauty of partnership and collaboration when we all lock arms together and support one another and lift each other up. And so there was food from a local business, there was music, entertainment, family members just came out to have some fun, and it was an amazing experience. And so we did something very similar. We went to the Marshallese community, and what's amazing about this, late at night, watching my son play baseball, we happened to see some Marshallese community members playing softball. But I noticed something. They didn't have cleats, they didn't have softball gears. And I went and talked to a community member, and I just said, hey, I'm Anderson, I work for the city. I'm curious, is there a reason why people don't have the resources that they need? And they explained it to me. Came back to the team and told them, I said, hey, I think if we're able to give them gears, it's gonna build a bridge. And we're able to connect with them, bring them in, leverage the relationships that we have with existing partners, the school district and a local business who provided gloves, bats, all brand new, and look how excited they were. And for us, we may think that's like a small thing, but what really happened is we built a bridge between communities. We built trust. And so we asked them after this, what can we do to address workforce issues in our community? So we brought both groups together, African Americans, Marshallese community members. We had the Multicultural Family Center, Iowa Workforce, you see Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, Leisure Service Department, and we just listened to the community members. We know that there's programs like Opportunity Dubuque is out there. We don't know how to connect you to it. Help us. And they came up with this program right here, the Employment and Empowerment Expo, where they focused on job training, resume building, interview skills, professional headshots. It's not what we came up with, it's what community members wanted, and we just made sure we had the flexible resources through that grant to make it happen. And so again, we have to move beyond just listening to community members' ideas, take proactive steps to support and fund it. Because again, when we support the most vulnerable, it benefits us all. And you can see the numbers of the people who attended, 23 adults, 9 children, 13 out of 23 of those adults were seeking employment opportunities. They were super excited that this program was created. It was for the community, by the community. Here's a beautiful picture that shows the community members that were there, the leaders our servant leaders who were there serving the community members. So I do want to thank Iowa Works for doing the resume, Greater Dubuque Development Corporation for doing the mock interview, NICC for being actively there to increase awareness about Opportunity Dubuque, our Equity and Human Rights, although Gisela is not here, Anne Marie is here, so we want to publicly thank her and her team for the work that they did. And we are building a strong partnership with the Multicultural Family Center, so I want to thank Antonio Mozon and his entire team and AmeriCorps for their support. And so now what I would love to do is invite Braden up to talk about some data.
Hello, City Council. Thank you, Anderson. My name is Braden Daniels, and I'm the data analyst for the Office of Shared Prosperity. Tonight, I'll be giving a very brief overview of poverty in Dubuque, comparing figures from 2018, when the council first prioritized poverty, to the most recently available census data from 2022. So with that, and I'm hoping you can see my laser pointer, this first graph demonstrates the 5-year trends in poverty rates for the city of Dubuque, the state of Iowa, and the United States as a whole. In that time, the city's poverty rate fell from 16% to 13%, and that decrease represents over 1,700 Dubuque residents who would have been in poverty had the rate stayed where it was in 2018, but are not in poverty today. The city did have the highest poverty rate of these 3 geographies for most of the 5-year period, but we've also seen the largest decrease of any of these geographies, and we fell slightly below the poverty rate of the country as a whole in 2021. All 3 of these lines also show a general downward trend, with the largest decreases occurring between 2019 and 2021. That is, these are often attributed to pandemic-era relief programs, and the expiration of those programs are one factor alongside rising costs that contributed to the slight increase in poverty at the city and state levels, as well as the slowing of the downward trend at the federal level in 2022. This next graph shows median household income for those same years and same geographies, and all 3 lines show relatively constant increases, with the exception that growth noticeably slowed as these lines flattened between 2019 and 2020. Once again, that is likely related to the pandemic, recession, and subsequent recovery efforts, as the growth picked up again in 2021 and beyond. Now we see this graph highlights the 5-year change in poverty rate for Dubuque compared to the 10 most populous cities in Iowa. And I want to draw your attention to the columns here for Dubuque and for the average of the cities other than Dubuque. In 2018, Dubuque had the 6th lowest poverty rate of these 11 cities at 16%, falling slightly above the average of the other cities. But by 2022, Dubuque had the 4th lowest poverty rate at 13% and was well below the average of those other cities. This graph shows the percent change in poverty rate for that same period, and you'll notice a very large yellow column here for Dubuque and a very small orange column here for the average of the other cities. Between 2018 and 2022, Dubuque's poverty rate dropped to just over 80% of where it was in 2018. And over the same period, 6 of the 10 most populous cities in Iowa saw their poverty rates rise. Only 4 of those cities saw any decrease, and the average poverty rate of these cities decreased only by 1/5% throughout that period that we saw an 18% reduction. We also wanted to see how this decrease in poverty is felt across a variety of demographics, including sex and race and ethnicity. So this graph shows poverty rates disaggregated by sex, with female poverty rates on the left side and male on the right. And you'll notice that for both groups, poverty rates fell from 2018 to 2022. But also in both years, the female poverty rate was noticeably higher than the male poverty rate. In 2018, that rate was 35% higher than the male rate, and in 2022, the female rate was 38% higher than the male rate, indicating that disparity between those groups did increase slightly. For every 3 men in poverty in Dubuque, there are more than 4 women in poverty. And as part of our plan to address this, in May, our department plans to collaborate with the Women's Leadership Network to facilitate a panel discussion addressing the various challenges that women face in the workforce, particularly focusing on issues like poverty, recruitment, retainment, and professional development, especially for women in sectors dominated by men. This next graph shows poverty rate broken down by race and ethnicity for the city of Dubuque between those years. And if you'll notice, almost every group, with the exception of Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders here, saw a decrease from 2018 to 2022, while the Native and Hawaiian and Pacific Islander population did see a slight increase. Today, residents who are Black or African American alone and those who are Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander alone are experiencing the highest rates of poverty, both of those groups seeing about 3 times the poverty rate of the city as a whole. Although due to some survey limitations with small populations, there are larger margins of error for the American Indian Alaskan Native population, as well as the Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander population. In fiscal year 23, we shared that we would define what a livable wage is for the city of Dubuque, and I know that this isn't the first time that this council has seen the ALICE data, but several times throughout the Imagine Dubuque Comprehensive Plan, residents called for the city to address stagnant wages, and this is the primary tool we use for this. It's the ALICE survival budget. It's based on methodology from the United Way, and we calculate it for the city in partnership with the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque. ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed Individuals. These are essentially people who are working and contributing to the city's economy, but struggle to afford basic necessities. Many people below this threshold also make too much to qualify for certain social programs that are based on the official poverty measure. The ALICE survival budget provides very conservative estimates for the costs of basic necessities across 8 categories. Can be calculated for a variety of family types. Here we have one adult with one child, and a family with 2 adults and 2 children. And there are also obviously several things that are excluded from this budget. There's no specific category for things like clothing or furniture or home maintenance. All of those things combined likely exceed the 10% of the rest of the budget pre-tax, which is what is withheld for that miscellaneous expense category. And also, this budget allows no room for savings of any kind for emergency costs or for longer term things like education or retirement. And looking at where these rates sit today, one adult in Dubuque needs to make $26,000 a year to afford this budget, and 30% of single adults living alone in Dubuque do not make that. Similarly, with families with one adult and one child, that family needs to make almost $50,000 in a year to afford this basic survival budget, and 62% of those families are falling below that threshold. With 2 adults and 2 children, that family needs to make closer to $100,000 a year to afford this budget, and almost 40% are falling below. Overall, this research aims to paint a clearer picture about how many people are struggling economically, and also who these people are within our community, as opposed to the blanket 13% that fall below the official poverty measure. And on this final graph, we have the federal poverty measure for a single person and for a 4-person family, both shown here in green, as well as the needed annual income to sustain the ALICE budget for one adult and for 2 adults and 2 children. In all instances, the ALICE threshold far exceeds the poverty measure for a similar family type. In 2023, the ALICE budget for one adult was almost double the federal poverty threshold for one person, and the ALICE budget for 2 adults and 2 children was more than 3.5 times the federal poverty threshold for a 4-person family. Additionally, while these bottom 3 lines have risen slowly at consistent rates, the ALICE budget for a family of 4 rose over 20% in a single year between 2020 and 2021. And that's largely due to the end of the pandemic era expanded child tax credit. Between those 2 years, the tax component alone of the ALICE budget for that family went from $754 to $1,560 per month, resulting in $9,000 annually that these families had to come up with and pay additional in taxes. That tax increase alone accounts for 68% of this large change between these 2 years. And it's also worth noting that the official poverty measure for this family or for other family types did not follow the same trend. And in fact, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, the rate of child poverty more than doubled in this next year in 2022 to 12.4% nationally. And when the official poverty threshold isn't keeping up with the ALICE threshold or with expenses in general, that indicates a growing gap where families are unable to meet their basic needs, but are also unable to or find it very difficult to qualify for programs like SNAP, WIC, Head Start, federal student aid, and some parts of Medicaid. just to name a few of those programs. One way in which we try to address stagnant wages, as Anderson mentioned before, is through collaboration with the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation and NICC through Opportunity Dubuque to help people acquire skills and certifications that can lead to higher wages. And as we see here, measuring poverty goes well beyond the official poverty rate and even beyond what the Ellis threshold can convey. So for that reason, in order to fully understand how the city and its residents and its various populations are experiencing poverty, we need to go and do a much deeper dive and look at a wider range of metrics than we can in the time we have tonight. Once again, we'll be scheduling a work session to go into this in further detail. But with that, I would like to thank you all again for your time and introduce Community Engagement Coordinator Tim Wapiri.
All right, so thank you so much, Braden. And so just want to say thank you so much, Mayor Kavanaugh, as well as council members and City Manager Mike Van Milligan. I'm super excited and happy to be up here. I love what I get to do on a daily basis. And if I could possibly just embarrass Anderson real quick, as he was mentioning how awesome of a team that we are, it starts with him. Going back to the work that we do, we work to meet our community members where they're at. But what he does is he meets us where we're at, and he always encourages being able to give us the tools and the things that we need in order to be able to do our jobs effectively. So appreciate everything that your leadership and all that you do. Hope you feel embarrassed. And so as Anderson mentioned, one of the most important things is for our residents to have that financial capital, but also having the social and political capital, right? And what I have an opportunity of being able to do is work with our residents to partner together to form a better Dubuque. And how I get to do that work is through one of our programs, which is City Life. And so City Life is a fun and free interactive program where we engage with residents where they have an opportunity to meet with up to 18 city departments. They take tours with 6 different facilities, and it's about 6 sessions. And our goal throughout the whole entire program is to encourage residents to get involved with boards and commissions, to get involved with their neighborhood associations, and just to find out and ask questions to build those relationships with our city departments. And so I want to shout out our team because this is a very intense program, and it's great, and it takes a lot of work to be able to do it. And we have a great team that comes together, and also with the partnerships with our city departments that dedicate so much time and invest in being able to make their presentations interactive and engaging, that residents continually have been talking about it, and we've been having great numbers. And also what's been important is that I have to mention that we've been partnering also with our school district, in particular the IJAG program. So the IJAG program is the Iowa Jobs for American Graduates, and so we offer this to our youth because our future leaders are them. And we recognize that you can never be too young to discover your ability to make an impact within your community. And in 2023, Council, you recognized and prioritized the need for us to have City Life in Spanish as a priority. And so thank you for that leadership and direction, because we were able to implement our inaugural City Life in the fall of 2023, and it was a huge success. And I have to share a powerful story in that. When we put the program together, we had a resident share that they've been in the community for some time, but this was the first time that they were able to connect with that many Spanish-speaking community members and to build relationships and feel that connection. And so for us being able to take that direction and also implementing that, it really had a great impact within the community, and we want to continue to do that. And as you can see, over the years, the program has been growing. And this is all due to, again, the partnerships with our amazing departments that dedicate their time to be able to present with our residents and also build relationships. And with that, people are having a great experience, and they want to be a part of this program. And because of that, actually this year, we actually had to close our application process a week and a half early because we had that many applications. And that's, again, due to our city departments and just the effort and the work that they put in to be able to make the program such an attractive program. And when we were planning our City Life in Spanish, the reason why it was so successful is because, one, we connected with our Spanish-speaking alumni through our previous City Life sessions. And so they were involved within the process, and they were able to co-design the program with us. And we were able to translate all the documentations, documents and presentations and flyers in order to make the program a success. And I also want to give a special thanks to to Gisela Akinchero for her efforts of being able to translate our presentations and the work time that she put in there. Also, another shout out, I feel like as if I'm over at the Oscars and just want to shout out everybody. Our Public Information Office, going back to what we've been hearing about marketing, they've done an amazing job of being able to be very intentional in helping us when we were putting the Spanish City Life program together, of targeting identified Spanish-speaking individuals, not only through social media, but we also had our boots on the ground approach. But that social media approach was very new and was awesome because we had volunteers from our Spanish-speaking community that wanted to be a part of the marketing. And as you can see at the top left there, Juan Monarez, he was volunteering to be able to do that. And also Lucy, she's with Crescent Community Health Center. But we went from the promotional videos to also the presentations being translated, and also our brochures and other documentations. And part of City Life, the bigger aspect, we want our residents to be engaged with our local government, but we also want to take that opportunity to connect our residents to our local businesses as well. And so since the start of the fiscal year of 2022, more than half of our program budget has been devoted to helping small businesses owned by women and people from racial minority backgrounds. And this shows our dedication to supporting local businesses ran by diverse owners and promoting diversity and inclusion. Here you can see we do a survey both in the beginning of the program and also after. This is our post survey that was collecting feedback from our participants in our Spanish City Life program on what are they excited about in the future, right? And as you can see, there is a huge interest of being involved within our boards and commissions as well as neighborhood associations. And as you look at the quotes up there at the top right, City Life has made me realize that there is a hope for us to get the word out there. At the bottom left, that we can join some commissions as well. So having an opportunity to make an impact. Going back again to what we talked about, those closest to the problem often have the solutions. And so City Life offers that opportunity to not only get the information of how you can get engaged, but also how you can make that impact wherever it is that you see fits best for you. We also asked this, what matters most to you within the community? And so here we have a few different quotes that came from the different participants. And as you can look and see on the top left, that more opportunities for Latino people within the community. And as you go down, the other quotes read out that there be more interaction between Latinos and the American community, so having more of that integration. To be taken into account, the members of housing, so being able to have the housing support. It's also important to have the same opportunities, development, employment, health, housing, as the rest of the community that we live in, and also having our word heard. And also having a place where I can find an affordable place and have the security that allows me to live in peace. Now, City Life has been a great program for our community, but also a great opportunity that has allowed us to participate within the International Association of Public Participations. And so what that organization is about is being able to promote and advocate public participation and community engagement globally through targeted initiatives that are guided by culturally adaptive standards of practice and core values. And so last year we were able to be invited to actually present at the conference there because of the success of City Life, and the theme of the conference was meeting people where they're at. And so it was very fitting for us to be able to be participating in that. And so this aligns seamlessly with our commitment of engaging our community and in a meaningful and inclusive manner. And so this platform provided us with the chance to share insights and expertise and experiences that resonate with the overarching objective of meeting the diverse needs of our constituents. And as you can see, the room was packed, and I had the awesome opportunity of going with Liz Martin, and so she just rocked the house. It was an amazing time, a lot of great questions that people were asking, and it goes back to just having a very excited team and the support that we have for each other, but also being able to share that information out with other communities. Now, another aspect where I get to have a lot of fun, and this actually was very important when we first began our work, and this came from the city manager, of us not forgetting our neighborhood associations, right? And what we have is an opportunity for being able to look at, as far as the upward mobility framework of lifting people out of poverty requires more than just the living wage. People need the power and autonomy, as Anderson mentioned earlier, to solve issues that are impacting them the most. And through neighborhood associations, neighbors can take an active role for enhancing neighborhoods and resolving neighborhood conflict or concerns. And so monthly, I have the privilege of being able to attend their monthly meetings, both for existing associations and also for new associations, to help them build a sense of community. Again, working alongside with each other. And also, as you look at this chart, over the years, our associations have increased. So we went from 5 associations to 8, and now we're currently at 9 associations. And so this is demonstrating just a continuous interest within our community to build community wherever our residents currently live. And we also focus on being able to sustain these associations by providing tools, and I'll talk about our neighborhood toolkit, but to have that kind of structure for them to have that continual success. And we also are very intentional of having and establishing multiple touch points. So I get the pleasure of having one-on-one meetings with our leaders within our associations, as well as attending their meetings, and also having our quarterly neighborhood associations meetings, which we also have our city manager and city staff present. I have to share, I've heard countless times, many times from our leaders where, especially when they were attending me for the first time, they're like, wow, I am absolutely impressed with the fact that there's so many city departments that are dedicated to appearing at the quarterly neighborhood association meeting and providing that information to us. So another shout out to our awesome departments and also our city manager. One of the things that we're looking to also being able to do is host a training for our association leaders, and this is an opportunity for them to be able to get more just the tools and skill sets of how can they be able to be active within their roles, but how can they increase as far as strategies in the recruitment, retention of their neighbors, as well as being able to put events together and how to operate throughout their meetings. But also we want to propose a board resolution to officially recognize associations and their contributions within our community. And so going back to how we engage within our neighborhood associations, our leaders are volunteering their time. And as you can see that from having 5 associations to 9, there is a huge desire of being able to build community where each resident lives. And so we rely on our residents volunteering and their dedication to their time and to their community. And how we help them being able to create, as far as the structure we work with and not for, is providing the neighborhood toolkit, which I believe we had a handout that was shared with all of you. But it's an opportunity for them to come together and then throw out what are their ideas, what do you want to see your neighborhood to look like, what are you passionate about, and that creates the engine there. Those are the goals and the purpose, right? And through that, we have an opportunity of being able to, if there's a new association, for being able to establish new leadership, because as we're establishing those goals, everyone gets excited. It's like, hey, I want to be a part of that. I want to take that role on. And so my role involves being able to maintain consistent communication with association leaders through various touch points, as I mentioned before, one-on-one, their monthly meetings, attending events, and the quarterly neighborhood association meeting. And I want to also give a special shout out to Councilmember Russell for inviting me over to the Kiwanis Club meeting. It was awesome to be able to share and talk about as far as the toolkit. And during that time, the whole group, as well as our Councilmember Jones, were able to sing happy birthday to me, so that was a cool and fun opportunity there, so thank you. And one of the things that's really important for what we get to do is not only just attending their events and also meeting with our associations, but it's also investing within our neighborhoods. As you can see on the graph there, over the years, we've been able to not only increase our associations, but increase also our ability to invest within their neighborhoods for them to be able to put on and build community however way that looks like with a $750 grant that they are able to access. And so on the next slide, I want to show some examples of how this small grant has been utilized, and it includes initiatives aimed at fostering a sense of community. And so in the fiscal year of 2024, our neighborhood grant supported the following projects that you can take a look at. But I want to highlight the picture on the bottom right there. One of our partners within our community, the Project Rooted, they have been putting on an amazing event called the Rooted Table. And what they've also been intentional about is being able to provide that event over in targeted neighborhoods. And so here's another partnership of being able to host this awesome event. And so this one in particular is with a downtown neighborhood association. And as you can see in the middle there is one of our former presidents, Joe Knoll, and he served that neighborhood very well. And he had the opportunity of being able to actually kickstart the event and share a little bit of history about the Downtown Neighborhood Association, and just inviting people like, hey, this is a great way for you to not only enjoy the space in the park, but also ways that you can get involved and engaged. So just wanted to give a special shout out to him. And then moving forward, as you can see, some neighbors knock on your door to borrow sugar or ask to borrow your TV. Don't give it to them if they do that. But then you have other neighbors that knock on your door to provide opportunities. And so in this picture, what you see is the annual North End Neighborhood Association and Clower Manufacturing Community Picnic and Job Fair. So Clower Manufacturing has been looking to engage with their neighbors and saying, hey, we're in your backyard, right? We have awesome job opportunities that are great with great wages, and so we want you to have that opportunity of not having to go too far to find employment, that we're right here within the backyard. And so in partnership with our North End Neighborhood Association, they've been able to host annually this picnic and job fair. As you can see, Councilmember Danny Sprank over there having some awesome conversations with our residents and also our other local businesses that participate within here. Again, it's not about just one organization, it's about many organizations partnering together to put on an amazing event. And you can see our COP officers also out there engaging with our residents as well. I don't think I have a picture in there, but my kids have been sharing like, what do you do for work? And the reason why is they get the opportunity of coming to all these awesome events with me, and they don't see it. I don't see it as work either, but they're like, so what do you do? It's like, well, this is what I get to do. It's like, but what do you do? It's like, I get to have fun and connect with other people. So always excited again, and I love what I get to do every single day, and I love the team that I get to work with in order to make those things happen. But going back to Clower and also our North End Neighborhood Association, we're looking to, again, continue to have this annually. And so we're looking to host that this year as well. And lastly, I just want to wrap up and just kind of share some of our future initiatives. We're looking to be able to offer city life within our Marshallese community. And so right now we're currently looking at in the planning phase of being able to engage with our Marshallese community leaders that are willing and looking forward to be able to put this on again to co-create with us, collect and leverage data about businesses and properties along the central corridor to support revitalization efforts, continue to partner with the community to implement our equitable poverty prevention and reduction plan. So also being able to automate and have visual data through the awesome work that Braden's going to be doing. Also continue to offer that employment and empowerment expo, establish data governance policy, explore creating a universal application form for qualified residents needing essential city services, increasing the number of active neighborhood associations. And in this slide, this is just a breakdown as far as our property tax support. And to the left, you can see it's about $511,000 and then $7.01 for the average homeowner. So with that, thank you for your time.
All right. Well, Anderson, Temwa, Braden, Liz, thank you very much for the presentation. We are in a public hearing to discuss the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support Budget for fiscal year 25. Do we have any public input on this? I see no one here. Anyone virtual?
No one virtually.
Okay. Back to the table and for discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
Well, how many departments have their own Steve Kornacki? You got Braden, and I think you'll be kicking his butt in about 10 years. That's amazing. Love the cohesiveness of the department. I love the mark that you're making on the community, and I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we got talked into doing this because it's so evident that this is the right step to take. And in your work and in the spirit that you bring to it, it's incredibly evident. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms.
I
Farber.
just want to echo what Mr. Jones said, and I think you guys have too much fun. And it's great, and I hope that fun spreads, and I think it does. Your enthusiasm and your energy obviously spreads to all the community members that you are working with. And just a real shout out on your toolkit, and I do have access to the Cathedral neighborhood, the Bluff, whatever you're calling the Bluff Corridor neighborhood. I get all the emails, I get all the messages and all of the summary of the meetings, and there's just a lot of energy that's coming down to Cable Car Square that hasn't been there for a decade or so, and so that's really bringing energy back to not only the residents, but also to the commercial entities that are within that area. So thank you very much for taking that opportunity to extend it to that neighborhood, because sometimes I think that area feels it's kind of like a stepchild to the rest of the city because it's kind of tucked away in that historic section. So thank you very much for all that you're doing. Continue the good work and, spread some of that joy and enthusiasm this way too. Thank you.
For sure, that's Tim Wall working with PIO with the toolkit. And what he didn't mention is Rooted Table. They're planning on going to a variety of neighborhoods, and I believe in your area, that's going to be next. And so imagine that, a variety of community members down where the businesses are at, the elevator. It could be a lot of beauty. And so we're hoping that happens, and we're going to encourage that to happen next.
Look forward to it. Thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right side of the table, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. So, great presentation, exciting, inspiring. I was talking to one of the neighborhood school officers, one of the officers of the school, and that person talked to me about the difficulty that transitory living situations have on education. As a member of the school board, you understand that. Do we have data? Are you collecting data on the effect of transitory living situations on poverty? Someone's here just briefly, and that's kind of a lifestyle, and that some families unfortunately move for different situations and they don't take root. And so maybe, I don't know if you have tools that can find these people right away as soon as they come to our community and find out about how that affects the community in general and how we can maybe help stabilize it if they want to stabilize the situation. Is that on your radar at all?
Well, let me so I can't never take a hat off. So with my school board and this committee, we are aware of that. And our schools do have that information, and they do have, let's just say, community engagement leaders within some of these targeted schools to do outreach. And I think what we've learned even during the pandemic is how much of an asset our schools are, and we don't tap into them enough. And so you will see more partnerships, and one of the projects we supported was the poverty simulator for one of those targeted schools. And so you'll continue to see more partnership, and schools are reaching out to us as part of neighborhood association groups to leverage our funding to solve some of those problems.
Thank you. And you mentioned something like 3 or 4 times. You've said the statement, what we're doing benefits us all, not just but what I'd love to say, and love to hear you say, is how it does, because some people in our community have talked to me that, when you're helping some people, you're hurting others. And that's not true. I think it benefits us all. But I would love for you to just follow up briefly with that, instead of we should all know that it benefits us all. I mean, there are people out there who don't understand how. Now, but Tenwa came up and said that they're trying to develop tools to help people help themselves. Obviously, that benefits us all. When people can have access and knowledge of certain tools that they can, they can make a real difference in their own lives, and choices that they want to make, they're able to do that now that they're able to have those tools. But so in your estimation, or how do you explain it when someone asks you, well, how does helping others help us all? Now, that sounds silly to us maybe, but how would you say that?
No, that's actually a beautiful question. And so in our world, when we're able to lift people up out of poverty, guess what? They're paying taxes. They're buying homes. They're taking care of their community. They're not just renting spaces, they're owning, and they take value and pride. For many of us, we didn't have issues walking inside the building, right? But we create structures where people who can't walk can get in the same building as us and benefit. And by doing that, they can come in here, talk to you, and let their voice be heard. And so when you look at the 8 determinants of poverty, in each one of those areas, when we lift people up, they're going to have those same resources that every single one of us have. Another great example that I mentioned is kind of like when we go to DC, right? And we advocate for the various services that we do. And we advocate on rural communities, and we say the same thing. Urban communities, when you help rural communities, we're also thriving. We're also able to bring new talent here. We're also able to make our communities better. And so that's what we constantly have to remember. When we help the least, it does help all of us in all of those ways that I just mentioned. But when we don't, it's going to be the opposite. We don't have people paying taxes. We don't have people buying homes. We don't have people wanting to move, stay here, raise their family here, put kids in the education system. We won't have an equitable community of choice. A wise person said, we will fail. And I agree 100%.
Thank you. And that's very important to keep reiterating, because that's absolutely true. And other things I hear, that the government should only do essential public services, police and fire. But I think, and everybody up here thinks, that you have an essential public program for us, that for the city of Dubuque and our residents. But again, helping everyone get access to tools that help people help themselves. Maybe they don't even know it. And you guys are out there making connections and talking about the tools and how can we help you do what you would like to do with your life. And it's so many inspiring things that I heard tonight. So thank you all for your service to our citizens. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Sprank first, and then Ms. Wethel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Anderson and Timwa. I think I've mentioned before, I get to see you guys at least twice a month at 2 of my neighborhood meetings. And the fact of what the department has morphed over the years has helped all those neighborhood associations out, where you've also helped expand one downtown, which was pretty much on its last leg, but now that now using the Lacey Mansion and that owner really helps expand that down in that part of town. But the fact that the grants, the small neighborhood grants, allow a neighborhood association to do a neighborhood cleanup, to reinvest in their neighborhood, to do kind of placemaking, those are really important that I don't think citizens totally realize. And sometimes it's the little things that go a long way. And so that's kind of how I view what your department does. It's the little things that help get our neighborhoods kind of together. So thank you for what you guys are doing.
Thank you. And those grants are not just one-time grants. You can use those grants monthly to build a sense of community. So I do want to make sure I acknowledge that as well.
And one last thing. Yeah. You did mention that Pathways to Prosperity. When you came with me to the lovely meeting that we had in DC with the Department of Interior, they were very impressed with this handout. So I'm glad that, like you said, we give it out nationally. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wethel.
So the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support. It's a lot to say, and I know that a lot of people hear that and they're just not really sure. And over the last year, I've thought about when people ask me what you do, and I feel like the thing that I say mostly is something like community activation. you take what we have in the community and in our city, and you help it to be known to our citizens. And so whether it addresses poverty directly or indirectly, I feel that your hand is in that. When I was just at the Bluff Street neighborhood meeting, and they talked about how they had talked to Temwa about this and Anderson about this, and they were very well informed in what they could do and what they had available to them. But everywhere I go, you have been there and you have spoken with them. So thank you, because it's okay for us to create these resources for our community, but if community doesn't know about them, they never get used, or they don't get used the way they're really meant to. So that is, to me, also such a valuable piece of what you do every day. Braden, are you sure you've only been here 3 months? Because is it 5? Just really impressive, your enthusiasm, your knowledge already of our community. I look forward to hearing more from you.
Did I mention he was a musician? Yeah, he plays music, a lot of instruments, and I think Tim was super excited to have with you guys some City Life band and employees, so be ready for an email.
Excellent.
Yeah, you can consider that done. Thanks. Ms. Roussel.
Yes, thank you. This work is so impressive, and the graphs that Braden presented really showed some great improvement in the numbers. And I think it's really important to remember that those numbers are people whose lives have been improved. So thank you so much for that. I think we have a great team with great programs, and they're helping everyone to lead their best life that makes Dubuque a great place for everyone. So I just can't wait to see what you come and bring for us next year. Thank you, and keep up that great work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Roussel. Well, I got to tell you guys, when when we had the opportunity as a city council to create this office, I was really excited to be able to do something like that. I knew that we were going to be leading in a way, and I love it when Dubuque leads. I absolutely love that part of what we do here. But I didn't realize we were going to be leading so much that out of 10 groups that you were chosen, you mentioned the one group that you were with earlier in the presentation, we were the only ones that had an actual equity and poverty prevention plan in that way. I mean, that surprises me, but it's exciting to know that that's where we've placed ourselves. When we created that office, in my head, I had sort of a vision of what I thought that could look like and maybe should look like, because I thought maybe that would be the direction to go. That's what you just did. That's where you are right now. You are exactly that vision that I think we had when we created that, and I cannot thank you enough for what you're doing. I think it takes a new department a few years to really get your feet under you and be able to do these things, but you are currently sprinting, and sincerely appreciate that work. I also noticed, I could not help but notice that you didn't ask for any improvement packages in the work that you're doing. So what you're doing right now is working for you. It's actually moving in the direction of, you're just going to keep on going with what you have. I think that's an important thing to point out as we do this. I also noticed that you have some money that you haven't spent. So the grants, the neighborhood grants, what's the challenge in getting that money out the door? Is there a way that we're going to be able to continue to do that? Because I think we've budgeted somewhere around 25,000, something like that. And it looks like 9,000 was there for the year, was spent on the year. Is it a matter of we don't have enough requests coming from the neighborhood associations yet, or we don't have enough neighborhood associations yet?
I think there's an and. We've been looking at that and trying to figure out various strategies where we can get that out to neighborhood associations. Many associations are not really aware of how that works and are not taking advantage fully. And so, again, with these constant touch points, and Timwell, what he's been doing is in that toolkit, we have associations identifying, like we do goal setting, the top 3 things that you're going to focus on every year. How are you leveraging that grant? We also told the city manager we want to be creative on how we also leverage some of these fundings for groups who also want to build a sense of community. And this is where that training comes in, as Timwell mentioned, because there's many groups and associations establishing. But we want to make sure they know how to lead. We want to make sure they understand the goals and priorities of council, but also how to put projects together, mobilize, and execute. And we're going to be able to leverage some of those fundings better to help some of these groups and associations accomplish some of those goals. So it's on our radar too, and we don't want to lose that because we want to be able to use that to help community members to do what's best for them.
Yeah. No, I think the money for the neighborhoods is money well spent, so I think it's a really important thing to keep in the budget for sure. I was just curious if there was anything else that needed to happen to get that going. The last thing I'll say is, I grew up on the west side of town, so I remember, I had when you have the great honor of being able to run, for an office like this, you get to go to talk to everybody. I remember going to the west side of town, and there's some great neighborhoods on the west side of town. There's some great neighborhoods on the south side of Dubuque. And we're sort of, Wally Werneman, our city planner, is fond of saying that we're sort of multiple cities in one. We have different neighborhoods that are they have really unique identities in and of themselves. And I think the west side of town and south side of town are that way too. And I'd love to see the neighborhood associations start to expand in that direction. I know you're doing the work to get the word out there, but I think this is more of a call for the community. This is not just about downtown Dubuque or the old established neighborhood associations that have been running for a long time on the north side. This is about the entire city of Dubuque. So I would love to see some neighborhood associations in the west end of Dubuque and in the south end of Dubuque. I think there are some great neighborhoods that I think could have just as much fun as all of us who are living in these neighborhoods that have the associations. So hopefully we can start to see that expansion.
And we do have some prospects, and Timoa has been very active, even in my neighborhood. Groups are coming together, but I've been saying, slow down. Because there's one person who has to juggle all of these in the air, and not just create it for us, it's sustaining it. And so that too is on our radar. We have prospects ready, and I'm that might be my improvement package. Give me be careful what you wish for.
Well, that's the end of your presentation. So, no, thank you very much, you guys. I really appreciate it. You gave us a lot of information, and I know you have more to share in a work session. I think it was appropriate to share, as a newer department, to share a little bit more information in this way, and I think it was really helpful to do that. So thank you very much for doing that. Yeah. Go ahead, Tim.
I do apologize. I just had to make one last shout out to both of you for your neighborhoods within the Fenland Hill Neighborhood Association and the Langworthy, for you playing at, not only coming from Langworthy, for us putting that together for the block party, but then going over to the Langworthy Neighborhood Association and playing and drumming. So just wanted to recognize that as well. So.
Well, just like the band we're going to form here, right? I mean, if there's music playing on a front porch, you got to go sit there and play. So it's fun. Well, thank you very much. So the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support will conclude that presentation. Moving on next, we have two more presentations left this evening. So we are moving next to the Office of Equity and Human Rights. Keep the show going here.
Good job, Anderson.
So if we are, I know don't worry. There's we can, but at this point in the night, we start to move around a little bit. Everybody needs a bit of just some movement. So don't be distracted. But we are ready for the presentation for the Office of Equity and Human Rights.
Thank you very much, Mayor and City Council. My name is Anne Marie Jeanette. I am the Equity and Human Rights Specialist for the Equity and Human Rights Department. And technologically, there we go. Okay, so Gisela Aiken-Shadle is the Chief of Equity and Human Rights, and unfortunately, she was not able to be here this evening. She does send her apologies for that. We have one vacant position that would share my role, and we also have a shared administrative assistant in Liz Martin. And her services, we've had her services for the past couple of months, and I honestly don't know how we did it before she came to us. I'd also like to thank Collins Ebo for his invaluable experience and service to our department and to the city of Dubuque. Collins left for another opportunity in June of last year after 3 years of service to the city of Dubuque. I'd also like to thank our Equity and Human Rights Commission for their service. The commission is made up of 8 members, and they meet on a monthly basis. We currently have 2 vacancies, so if anyone watching is interested in joining the commission, hint, hint, please visit our website and submit an application. And our mission statement. So our department's mission statement is to advance social justice, racial equity, and human rights in city services, civic engagement through education, analysis, outreach, and community partnerships. And how do we do this? Well, we take a very proactive approach to eliminating discrimination by making inequities visible through data and storytelling, and by engaging community voices to design systems of change, and by striving to identify the needs of residents and connect them with the resources that they need. And of course, by building our city's capacity to advance equity through trainings, tools, and assistance. Our strategic work with partners, both inside and outside of the organization, is vital in creating more sustainable solutions to civil and human rights issues. There are 3 main pillars of service areas. Okay, got the first error out. Okay. So the Equity and Human Rights Department is in a period of realignment, and we are expanding our services. And our service areas include, under the Equity Plans and Projects banner, our department works with other departments to design, develop, and implement strategies to ensure fair and equitable treatment for individuals within the organization, as well as residents of the community. Our department advocates, supports, and promotes fairness, justice, and equity for all individuals, particularly those in underserved communities who face systemic barriers and discrimination. And our department educates employees as well as residents of the community on topics of equity, justice, inclusivity, and belonging. Fiscal year 2024 highlights. Okay, so one of our roles in this department is to do the intake of discrimination complaints from the public. So far in fiscal year 24, we have received 57 requests for assistance, and we have filed 13 complaints of discrimination. As you can see from the graph, over the past few years, the number of calls for assistance continues to decline. Having fewer complaints of discrimination should be a good thing. However, we know that discrimination is still happening. I think we can all agree with that. People are just not reporting it. For this reason, we are continuing our efforts to be more visible in the community and to let residents know that they have a vehicle for their complaints. The reason for the difference in the number of requests versus the number of complaints filed is varied. and it includes just a variety of different reasons. Many requests don't meet the legal requirements. Many complainants decide that they don't want to continue with filing, and many complainants become unresponsive to follow-up requests. We have several services that we offered for the organization. Education is one of our pillars of our service areas. And with the intercultural competency team, we're currently providing 2 11-hour training sessions twice a year for every new employee. This has increased from 3 to 11 hours. Training topics include belonging, identity, bias, culture, intercultural communication, and conflict management. We just held our last session day before yesterday. The ICC team is a collaborative effort between multiple departments. Team is made up of me and Gisela, as well as Gina Bell from Sustainability, Maddie Haverland from Housing, and Temwa from the Office of Shared Prosperity. Each week, there is an all-employee noon webinar, and once a month, our department presents on a culture creators topic, which have included racial equity, inclusive language, and empathy. We have created a diversity calendar, which lists major religious and cultural events happening each month. And along with that, we're now creating and distributing a monthly Diversity in Dubuque newsletter that includes a description of upcoming celebrations, an article on the featured celebration of the month, a topic that aligned with our culture creators presentation, and a list of upcoming cultural events happening in the area. The purpose of the newsletter and the calendar is to highlight different cultures in the hopes that the reader will find commonalities between themselves and the cultures of others. We have been working with departments to design and develop equity plans for their teams. So far, about 75% of departments have submitted their goals to us. Over the next year, we will continue to work with departments on ways to implement their goals to ensure equitable treatment for their team, as well as residents of the community. And lastly, Gisela has been in training for the past several months and will soon become an official member of the EQ coaches team. She has already begun coaching individuals in the organization on how to improve their emotional intelligence and helping them to resolve some interpersonal issues they might be experiencing. Another aspect of our rebranding is that we're trying to rebrand the services that we offer to the community, not just taking in complaints of discrimination, but also becoming more visual in the community. So to do this, we've been participating in several outreach events, such as the Black Business Expo, the Latinx Fiesta, and the Back to School Bash. At each of these events, we staff a table and we hand out promotional items as well as information about what our department does. We've had many opportunities to engage with the community about different discriminatory situations they've experienced and what their options were. And I cannot count the number of times somebody has said, "Oh, you exist? I didn't know there was somebody that did that." "Oh, yeah." So I think it's important that we get our name out there and we get our message out there is what's most important. We've also had the privilege to present at 12 speaking events for different organizations in Dubuque. Gisela continues to be an in-demand speaker throughout the community. Some presentations have included the American Association of Airport Executives, Distinctively Dubuque, and the SART Conference. The Dubuque Equitable Community Grant is something that we're very proud to be able to offer to the community. The goal of the grant is to support programs, activities, and services that help promote equity in the Dubuque community, especially those that relate to one of the city's 5-year goals. Last year, we awarded a $10,000 grant to Tri-Phoenix Group for the Black Business Expo. Their goal was to bring together and highlight Black-owned businesses in the area. And this year, we'll be granting two $5,000 grants. We are still accepting applications through March 31st. Hint, hint. Get it in there fast, people. So if anyone's interested, or if you know of anyone who might be interested, please apply now. Recipients of the grant will be announced in April. The recommended improvement request we have is to rent a billboard in the north end at a cost of $5,800. The purpose of this would be to advertise the department and how and why to file a complaint of discrimination. But more important than that, I think it's important to send a visual message to the community that Dubuque cares about equity and human rights for all residents. Some of our future initiatives, continued development, review, and implementation of department equity plans, increased educational opportunities for the organization on DEIB-related topics. We hope to offer monthly opportunities for people. Partner with outside organizations to offer DEIB-related presentations and trainings. Continue development of the Language Access Plan, and continued outreach to the public to inform and educate about the Equity and Human Rights Department and to know your rights. The requested property tax support, our net property tax request is $459,000, and the average homeowner's property tax cost for our office is $6.82. In conclusion, I would like to thank Anderson and Liz for their patience and unending help throughout Gisella's absence and in helping me prepare for this presentation. I'm not going to blame it on you for my cold, but I'm sure the stress had something to do with that. So I'd also like to thank you very much for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you, Anne Marie, for the presentation and for being here to give it. We are in a public hearing to present the Office of Equity and Human Rights budget for fiscal year 25. Do we have any public input on this item? Seeing no one here, anyone virtually?
No one virtually.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Back then to the table.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Farber.
So Emery, thank you for your presentation, and I'm sorry for your cold, and I hope that you get better soon. I want to thank you very much for this diversity calendar, and also for giving a shout out to the Jewish community here, of which I am a member of that faith, and I noticed that you have highlighted the past holiday of Purim and also Passover forthcoming and some of the other very important holiday celebrations and traditions that we have within our faith. So thank you very much for this. And I think it's just a really great calendar because it really lists all of the traditions of many of the religious faiths here within the city of Dubuque. So thank you for getting this all organized. Appreciate it very much.
Anyone else? No other questions, comments? All right. Well, Anne Marie, thank you very much for being here to give this presentation. That's hard to do, to have to organize that in shorter notice than maybe other departments got. So thank you very much for doing it. You did a great job, by the way, so we're glad you were able to be here. Overall, I think what I'm most pleased with this department, because you mentioned it, in this period of transition that you're in, there have been a lot of changes. There's been some staffing changes, but more so, there have been real structural changes in how the department is working. And I appreciate that you very proactively getting after that to be able to make those changes and do it in a way that the community is going to come along for that ride. Because I think you're right. I think you've assessed this correctly, that there's not enough knowledge about what your department offers, and I think we need to get that word back out there. And I think sometimes those things have changed to the point where the community may have just shifted their focus and kind of forgotten that this is something that's actually really important, and it's a service that we provide, and we need to make sure that people know about that. So I'm glad that that's what you're doing, and I think your efforts are placed in the right direction. So thank you very much for your work on that and the work that you do every day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Well, that was the second to last presentation for the Office of Equity and Human Rights. So we are going to move on to the final presentation of the night for the Finance and Budget Office. All right.
What, have you been waiting?
Yeah. Have you been here all night or something? Yeah, okay. We are ready to go. So
right.
Jennifer Larson, we're ready for the Finance and Budget Office,
All
please.
right. Good evening. Jennifer Larson, Chief Financial Officer, here to present the Finance Department budget. This evening, I'll be co-presenting with Utility Billing Supervisor Rose Horner. She'll take the second half of the show, and also with me, actually every night of budget meetings, is Laura Bendorf, the new budget manager who came on board this year. So grateful to have her every evening as well. So this is the Finance Department's mission and vision statement, which was written by finance staff. I won't read this, but in summary, finance is an external-facing department with utility billing for the city's utilities and providing customer service, and then also internal-facing to all of the city's departments with everything from biweekly payroll, weekly vendor payments, accounts receivable, budget, we handle debt issuances, just everything financial reporting. So both internal and external. There we go. So we welcomed some new faces in the last 12 months, starting with Dawn March, Purchasing and Safety Coordinator. In June of 2023, she actually came from the Health Services Department. So she brought along a passion for safety and a lot of experience with safety, so she's been a great addition. Finance Manager Brian DeMoss came on board in July of 2023, so he's been heavily involved in both audit and implementation of our new payroll system. So he's been kept very busy. Already introduced Laura, but she came on board in July as well. And we have accountant Joyce Abuto, so she started in August of 23, moved here from Texas, but is originally from Kenya. So she's been a great addition, doing accounts payable and working on a variety of projects in finance. We also have part-time project manager Keith Stray. He is fully remote. He's a retired finance manager out of Wisconsin. We had been contracting with him through a temp agency when we were short-staffed, and it was just a really good fit. So he's now a part-time project manager with us, helping with everything possible in the finance department. And our latest add is Christine Selkert. She's our new payroll systems analyst, just started actually March 18th. She was with the City of Dubuque. She worked in the finance department, Public Works, and then left the organization for about 18 months and is back. So we're excited to have her back. The finance also supports the Investment Oversight Commission. So this commission members serve a 3-year term. We meet quarterly. And the purpose of the commission is to review the investments, make sure they're in compliance with the investment policy, and also to review the performance of those investments. And we do have one vacancy, and 2 of our members actually applied and became members of the commission through a City Life. So that's been really good for us to fill our vacancies. So hopefully this round of City Life will be able to fill that other vacancy. This is our current organization chart, so we're actually finally fully staffed, so that's been really exciting. As of March 18th, we were fully staffed, so hopefully we can push through some of our remaining large projects. Moving into equity, in the finance department, starting with budgeting, we include equity in our budget process, so we have departments apply an equity lens both to capital improvements and improvement packages, so we're having them answer equity-related questions. They also answer an overview, answering how their department impacts equity. We have held equity and budgeting training in the past for departments, and then we try to do some education on grant, contract, and purchase of service partners as well on equity. And then, of course, we try to provide various platforms for residents to participate in engagement on the budget process. In finance, we do have a part in the equity plan. So there is a plan to maintain and develop opportunities for minority business enterprises to participate as a vendor of the city of Dubuque. There's a list maintained of local targeted small businesses in conjunction with the state certified, targeted small businesses for city procurements. And then they are also tracking and reviewing vendor demographics and other data related to procurements in the new ERP system. So that's a nice add. And of course, trying to evaluate city requirements to ensure optimal vendor participation in procurements. In utility billing, we are offering payment plans to customers with delinquent balances, and we've been doing that since March 2020, so since COVID. Water, sanitary, sewer, stormwater, and refuse, we offer a 50% base fee reduction for those income qualified. Also, Rose participates in the landlord city meetings and landlord association meetings, and she also participates in the equitable fine and fee reform. Moving into the safety committee, Tony Breitbach is actually the chair of that committee, and of course Don March is also involved along with many other city departments. So there's individuals from all levels of the city as well as outside organizations such as the Iowa Communities Assurance Pool, Iowa Municipalities Workers' Compensation Administration, and then also the city's general liability agent, who is O'Connor and English Insurance Agency. So this committee works closely with Human Resources, and they review and implement changes and recommendations brought forward. They coordinate citywide development of safety roles and safe work methods, and also coordinate joint safety training with departments, and of course promote and develop safety culture within the city. They meet quarterly, also as needed, and during those meetings, they review injury, accident, near misses reports from all departments, and also work with departments to implement corrective actions. The goals of the safety committee are to establish a culture. If you see something, say something regarding everything safety, establish clear safety training programs across departments, and ensure new hires also get that information in the onboarding process. And of course, we want to provide a safe, healthy workplace every day. We also have safety subcommittees. So we have the incident review team that reviews injuries, incidents, and accidents. That team meets monthly or as needed, and they also make recommendations and evaluate how to prevent future occurrences. And they also review anonymous near-miss reports that are submitted through the city's website. We have a safety training team assist in recommending trainings for departments. So all new hires are now required to take 3 safety-related courses. And then employees will be required to take 9 core safety-related courses, regardless of their role within the city. There are over 30 courses available to be assigned out depending on the employee's role. And courses are available to those already required and are available through NeoGov. There's also a safety audit team that performs job site facilities walkthroughs and audits of city facilities and work sites. So the recent accomplishments of the safety committee, they implemented paperless electronic claims reporting process. They also did paperless electronic injury and accident reporting. First aid, CPR, and AED training was offered to all city employees, and they offer safety tips and reminders in each Spirit Times newsletter to employees. And then they're currently focusing on comprehensive review of the city's safety policies and procedures with a third-party vendor, and then, of course, continued employee education, training, and enforcement of all things safety. Moving on to finance, we'll be talking a little bit, of course, about our implementation of the Tyler Munis Enterprise Resource Planning System. So the first modules that went live were finance and budget in July of 2022. So we completed our first year in that module, and it was very successful, so that was good news. We also just completed setup, testing, and training of the new Tyler Munis Enterprise Human Capital Management and Tyler Time and Attendance for electronic timekeeping. Also, short, we could just call it the payroll system, but the first live payroll is to be completed the week of April 1st, so we're actually in the first live payroll right now. So it's been very busy, but it's been going well. And then another accomplishment is we received the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for the fiscal year 22 audit. So that was the 35th consecutive year there. Talking a little bit about the Tyler Munis ERP system implementation, just want to give a big thanks. Our team has grown since the last time I presented. So not only having mayor and city council support and city manager support, of course, the project is not possible without the information technology staff. Just tons of involvement there and troubleshooting and so much behind the scenes with that implementation. We've had the city's attorney's office, especially with the payroll module being implemented, all department managers, clerical and support staff, finance staff, human resources staff worked with us jointly on this project. And of course, all city employees, because they're all impacted by the payroll system now, having to use electronic system to clock in and out or report exceptions. So just to take a walk back in time, we actually started the ERP implementation in January of 2020. So to put that in perspective, I actually moved into the finance department in March of 2019. So I feel like it's followed me throughout my tenure in the finance department, but so this slide is everything that we went through to get to the point where we started implementing the first module, which went live in July of 2022, and then we started using it for the first budget in August of 2022. We also then implemented the utility billing module. So the kickoff for that was March of 2022 with implementation April 2022 through July of 2023, and we went live August of 2023. And then of course the payroll, human capital management, time and attendance, we started that in December of 2022, implementation January of 23 through March of 24, and we just went live March 17th, 2024. So you can see a lot of overlap between those modules and the people involved. So I can't give enough thanks to everyone involved and the burden that it put on staff. But we were able to push through. And again, I hope it creates a lot of efficiencies and people will learn, of course, to use the system as we go through it, so. Other things in finance, we also assist the city in issuing debt, and as part of that, we actually do a credit rating presentation to Moody's. So in July of 2023, Moody's upgraded the city's general obligation bonds from AA3 to AA2, as well as the outstanding sales tax increment revenue bonds from A2 to A1. So notable credit factors included strong financial operations, ample revenue raising flexibility, which resulted in steadily improved available fund balance and cash. The city serves as a regional economic center, and its regional economic growth rate has outpaced the nation over the last 5 years. So that is a credit to the sound fiscal management of the mayor and city council, and has put the city of Dubuque in a strong position for all the financial markets. Also as a highlight, finance is also involved in legislative changes and implementation. So anytime that there is financial impacts, we are analyzing those. So we've talked a lot about House File 718, the new property tax law that was signed by the governor in May of 2023. So finance staff worked to summarize financial impacts and changes and presented that to City Council in July of 2023. And of course, as we've heard here quite a few times, the impact to the budget process was significant, including everything from taxpayer statements, separate public hearing on the proposed tax rate, general fund levy growth limitation, new homestead exemption for 65 and older, and military credit changed to an exemption, and also increased in the dollar amount, just to name a few of the changes. Under budget, the annual department training was held again, of course using the new ERP system. There were a variety of reports created in the new system to help with the budget process. There are automatic monthly reports that are sent out the 15th of each month to each department. And also in budget, they received the fiscal year 24 budget Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the 18th consecutive year. Under future initiatives, finance, so even though we have gone through a lot in the ERP implementation, we're not slowing down. We're looking to do a request for proposal for debt and investment management software and implementation in hopes of making that a less manual process. Also looking for a request for proposal for purchasing card, virtual card vendor and implementation. This is more of trying to reduce the burden on departments with submitting receipts and other documentation, making that process easier. Implementation of electronic strategic sourcing procurement software. So this is to assist in bidding, making that more universal to bid projects. Of course, we have more modules of the Tyler ERP system. So we're calling that phase 2. So of the HRM implementation, we have employee access, advanced scheduling, employee reimbursement, and electronic workflow processes to implement yet. And then we also need to do an internal automated annual comprehensive financial report creation. So that's for our audit report. So those are the things we have on our horizon. Under budget, we'd like to continue to expand our budget engagement, continue to implement equity tools and measures into the budget process. Every year we're trying to implement process improvements because we realize what a burden the budget is on departments, so we try to make it easier. And of course, with the payroll implementation, there is new tools available on the budget side. So there's a part of the payroll system called position control that actually tracks FTEs and vacancies and positions filled. So that we will have to have budget staff trained on that piece to be able to use for the fiscal year 26 budget process. And then just expanding use of the features of the new ERP system. This is just a snapshot of all the financial services that we provide in finance. In budget, we do have some online tools that we implemented: Open Budget, Balancing Act, Taxpayer Receipt. Budget also develops and manages the annual operating budget, 5-year capital improvement plan, and of course produces the budget documents. We do try to do budget engagement using interactive tools. 2025 was a much slower year due to the payroll implementation. We had to use all staff available to make that work, so that is why 2025 is not on here. And our requested property tax support for 2025 is $8.42 to the average homeowner. A snapshot of our performance measures on track. We're receiving GFOA awards on both the financial side and budget presentation side. We have quite a few, or a large number of utility billing customers using direct payment, which Rose will talk about here soon. Also improving the percent of water customers using the new online water management portal. We're improving the number of people we're reaching through engagement sessions. And we'd like to increase the number of residents submitting Balancing Act budget simulations. This is just a reminder of what online tools are available on the city's website. and other documents. So we have dollars and cents, open budget, balancing act, taxpayer receipt, and open expenses. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rose Horner, who is the utility billing supervisor. And this is actually her last budget with us, so.
Yeah, before Rose steps up there, if you don't mind, Mayor. So you might have noticed, I hope you did anyway, that I brought in cookies tonight, and they're at the back of the room. And the reason I brought them in is, I don't know if you call it in mourning or celebration of the fact that this will be Rose's last presentation before the council before she retires later this year. So we're going to miss Rose, but she gets to take those cookies to the office tomorrow because I know there's some left.
Thank you, Mike. I like cookies. So, utility billing. We do billing for 4 different utilities: water, sanitary, sewer, refuse, and stormwater. We work closely with the departments that offer those services, which would be the Water Department, Water Resource Recovery Center, Engineering, and the Public Works Department. We have a close relationship with all of the members of those departments. We service about 24,000 meters. We have a few more customers than that, a few more accounts that we manage. We provide service to people moving in and out of properties, purchasing new properties. We offer an online tool, an online resource tool for our citizens to be able to view their bills, pay their bills, watch their water usage. We also collect for parking tickets in the utility billing office. And we do some a la carte items like sell garbage stickers, one-time use garbage stickers, yard waste stickers, and prepayment for large item charges. The citizen portal does allow citizens to sign up and receive leak alerts. This new citizen portal that we have is a little more advanced than the other one was. It's got different options, so if you go away for the winter, you can actually set a threshold where if you don't want to see any water usage, it'll alert you if there's a gallon. So it's kind of a nice feature that way. You can also enroll in paperless billing and see your bill. You can make a one-time payment. You can set up automatic payment. Fiscal year highlights in utility billing. We've increased the number of paperless billing customers. We've also kind of increased auto pay. Not really. It looks like it's gone down a little bit, but this is due to the change in our software. So I'm very pleased to see this number as high as it is. Online and phone payments are also increasing, and the number of portal registrations has increased from, well, it's actually decreased, but it's increasing at a nice level with the new software. We offer reduced fees on an income-based level for customers, and that number has gone up quite a bit. Fiscal year highlights also include marketing for our reduced fee program. You can see all of these different sources that we use, and with with the opportunity to speak with people about payment plans, we also make sure that we try and provide information for all of the programs that we have available. We've got quite a few payment plans right at the moment, 223 active. Typically, we have about 100 at a time. We're attributing some of that to just more outreach from people, them being more engaged and realizing that we do have that resource there for them. We've had quite a bit of assistance from agencies over the last year, too, helping people with their bills. This is kind of this is a little bit difficult to kind of see, but if you look at the pink line, that's us, and that's our delinquent balances from July of last year. You can see it went way up in August. That's when we did our software conversion. We stopped collecting, we stopped charging late fees, and we stopped our water disconnections
at the time we went live, just to give us an opportunity to be able to be familiar with the system, and citizens an opportunity to be able to change over to the new payment system. So that number went up. It went down again in October. We sent out delinquent reminders, and then up again over the holidays. In January, we started processing disconnections again, and that number is going down significantly. We're glad to see that. We work closely with area agencies. HACAP is one of our biggest outreach programs. They don't always have funds available, but they are usually able to help us locate funds or help citizens locate funds. One of the biggest things that I was happy with the new ERP system is paperless billing customers now receive an email that has an actual copy of the bill attached to it. Before you had to sign into the system to see your bill, this one has it attached right to it, so it's a real quick glance. We went live August 1st. I'm happy to say everything went very well. We didn't miss any deadlines. We continued to bill on time. We did have to put a few things on hold, like the disconnections and the late fees, but we're back on track. Future initiatives include continuing to learn more about this system. In May, there will be an opportunity to do a software conference, and we'll send some staff members to that. We'll continue to reduce the delinquent utility balances. We're working hard to make sure that every week we're processing notices at least to get those out and keep on track without having to have any more delays. We've got some reporting that's much better in this new ERP system. Another thing we've talked about is the possibility of a payment kiosk or some type of a remote payment center, different areas through the city or possibly even inside City Hall. So we're kind of in the talking stages of that. We'll continue to increase our marketing efforts for our reduced fee program. There will be continued staff development, and there will be a succession planning for the retirement of the utility billing supervisor. So with that, I don't have anything else. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer those.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. We are in a public hearing to discuss the Finance and Budget Office Fiscal Year 25 budget. Do we have any public input? There's nobody else here. Do we have anybody virtually?
No one virtually.
Okay, it's getting pretty late, so the party's winding down. Back to the table then for discussion. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
So Mr. Mayor, I have some public input, so.
Oh, please.
I would just suggest that the Finance Department is the unsung heroes of our organization. What they can accomplish as far as implementation of the systems they're implementing and the tracking of the things they have to track and putting together this massive budget document in great detail so any resident can be fully informed on exactly how their money's being spent. I mean, it is just, it is amazing. So I want to thank them.
And I would add, I mean, I know we do it better than anywhere else in Iowa. And I don't mean that to, say anything badly about anybody else in Iowa. But I would add that I think we actually do it in one of the best ways in the entire country. I mean, what we're doing here is intensive, right? I mean, this idea of going over everything and talking about it in such great detail. But it is just such good government. It really is. And I am so glad that we've created this culture in doing this. And the work that you do in this office it's incredible to be able to get it done. I'm just so glad that all of you are here in serving in this role and have served in this role and are very deservingly stepping out into retirement at this point. I just think I can't say enough to echo exactly what Mike said. It's so important for a good local government, and you do such a great job with it, so thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Farber.
So a ditto to both what Mike and you have just said. And also, I just applaud the ongoing development of that big ERP system and how you're transitioning, and I know it's not necessarily easy to go from all the paper-intensive activity that goes on right now to online and to paperless, especially for those 24,000 residents that have the option now of doing utility billing online. I think there's a lot of, questions, and hopefully we get more people to make it paperless so that it becomes more efficient all the way around. And then in addition to all that you're doing for all your ledger work and your accounting, I look forward to hearing more success stories about that and how the AI applications within this big ERP system are really assisting you, and how the technology and all those wonderful algorithms that are behind the scenes are really helping you with all of the accounting and all of the details in the finance management, because that's just a big task. And it's a great tool in order to really make the city more efficient, your team more efficient. Your workload will become a little less difficult, I'm hoping. So best of luck on that, and thank you very much. As everybody said, it's just big kudos and big dittos here. Thank you.
Mr. Resnick?
Yes, briefly. So I really appreciate how you put the capital T transparency with your open budget and open expenses and so many other things. So our citizens, I'm sure, really appreciate that. And I would just offer to, don't think of it as retirement, but transition to boards and commissions. Something to think about. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
This side of the table? Any more? No? Okay. So, couple of things that I wanted to make sure we mentioned. I'm really happy to see the reduced fees being taken advantage of. I think we made a real effort in the last year to get the word out about that, and it appears that it's working. So that's great to see. You talked in multiple places about working efficiencies into the system. Both Ms. Farber and Mr. Resnick kind of pointed it out. I think you do it both internally and then public facing, and you're moving us into the future in that way, and it's really important to be able to have those tools. I know that as a customer, I've really appreciated them. I really like having especially from the utility billing standpoint, and all the ability to be able to see all these things and understand what goes into the budget. It's extremely understandable. I mean, you have to sit with it. We have to spend some time with it. But it really is digestible for a person who lives here, whoever that person might be, and I really appreciate that. One thing about the budget, the open budget software, you had that one slide. It was slide 26 I wrote down, but it's the one where there was a huge spike in the number of people who did it because you presented to Leadership Dubuque, was it? Or Young Professionals?
Young Professionals.
Yeah. To YP. Just a thought on that. I would love to see some more interaction with the budget, and I think any way we can get to groups like that would be great. I am not in any way going to ask you to do that. Just right now, I know that your plate is full, but I do think that I still see Anderson sitting back there. I'm thinking about things like City Life, and I'm thinking about partnerships with Distinctively Dubuque and Young Professionals and all these great groups that we have as partners. To teach somebody there to use it so that they can teach everybody else to use it. It would be nice to see that interaction so that we know that people are seeing that, I think. So in any way that we can think about that, I think it would be useful. I do think we get a lot of interaction about the budget throughout the year, and we collectively sort of gather that and use it throughout this process. But it would be nice to see that somebody's interacting with it directly, because I know it's one of your goals, and it would be nice to see that a little bit more too. Okay. Well, I think you actually deserve a hand for this presentation and Rose for your time. Thank you very much for your service. We sincerely appreciate it. And the service of the entire department along with that. We sincerely appreciate that.
Great team. Thank you.
All right. Well, we have reached the end of night number 2. So thank you very much for sticking with us and all the presentations. With no further business tonight, we will be adjourned.